Salute chat. What's up? What it do? Flight crew. You know how we do. What it do? Do. One bad bitch and she do what I say. So two big 40s and a big ass Draco. Let's see. Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson. Let's see. What about? Oh, there it is.
6.
There it is. Yeah, JBP got that Kermit shit going on. I ain't gonna lie, ever since he came back from you know where, I just can't trust him, bro. I'm sorry, bro. I just can't trust him, man. I can't trust him, bro. Nobody who goes over there in that region of the world and is friendly with them, I can't trust them. Do women deserve less? It's not me asking this, okay? So before you're like, are you asking the question? No. But, someone told me, like I said before in the last stream, like 2 days ago, or not 2 days ago, yesterday actually, where we were, reacting to Erudite's debate. Someone was like, Rashad, it's been a while since I've clicked on your videos. This Kanye video is the first one I've clicked in a long time. I really wish you'd cover more culture stuff. So I figured I would do that. And to be honest, culture is how a lot of us got into politics, whether it was, atheism versus theism debates or anti-SJW content. We all were kind of drawn into, not all of us, but a lot of us were drawn into politics by cultural commentary and cultural discussions. So, the way I see it is, I think there's a lot to be gained from venturing back into that realm. Hassan Piker was detained by Border Patrol or some shit like that. There's that. If there's time, we'll look to see what happened to Hassan. Bro, I was counting down the days until they targeted him. I was like, bro, this he may be born here, but boy, they can't wait to get a hold of that nigga, boy. I knew at one point, one day, they were gonna try him. It was only a matter of time. Let's see. What do I want to do? What do I want to talk about? What do I want to, I miss 2015. Like, everything was so culture war. Now everything's so not, now everything's just nah. Once was a time when, the memes were everywhere. The jokes were everywhere. You had Trigglypuff. You had Big Red, What a time. What a time to be alive. Now it's all fucked up. Did you like the GTA 6 trailer? Honestly, bro, like, I was disappointed to find out that GTA 6 was pushed back. I've never really been a big GTA guy. I did enjoy the Mafia. Like, I enjoyed Mafia 2. I didn't play Mafia 3. Mafia 3 is the one with Clay, the black guy, right? Yeah, I liked Mafia 2. I played the remastered version of Mafia 1. I've never really been a GTA guy. Like when I was a little kid, I loved GTA, but I like GTA 5 for me was just like lackluster. You couldn't go inside of a lot of buildings. It wasn't very interactive. It just was like really like meh. But given the standard set by Red Dead Redemption, I think GTA 6 is going to be nice. But, I just don't know if I am hyped up for it. We'll take a look at the trailer. I mean, I haven't seen it yet. If I did say I saw it, then I think I haven't seen the new one, but I've seen the first one. If I said I saw the second one, I'm wrong. And there's a new Mafia coming out as well. So, yeah, so Myron did a speech at the University of South Carolina about women deserving less. Hold on. He actually has a book about this, by the way. I remember I was talking to Brittany Simon, and she was like, do you know, like, I have like Myron's book about, I was like, wait, he wrote a book? So, he gave a speech though at a university, and I guess this is what it means to be in the West. I mean, like, you gotta roll with the punches. Like, there's gonna be dudes giving speeches about why women deserve less, so you gotta kind of just bite the bullet, right? Trump's humiliating announcement, was it China? Vagina. Okay, okay, I'm done. I'm done. I swear. I got that shit from Matt Friend. I swear to God. Let's watch this. Let's see Myron's speech about why women deserve less. And why is Myron dressed like a cab driver? I'm not trying to be racist. I swear to God. But like, why is Myron dressed like one of those like half Arab, half black cab drivers? Hold on, let me show y'all this shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, this looks like a nigga who would pick you up from the airport. I don't know if this is the fit to be talking about whether or not women deserve less. You got to show up a little bit, dress a little bit more, You know what I'm saying? Like, come on now.
Now it's gotten crazy, man, but triggered a lot of people. It's going viral right now all over Twitter because people like took clips from it and everything else and YouTube and all. And I think a big reason why it's going so viral is because the liberal agenda isn't really being challenged on the college campuses. And I could see why a lot of people don't want to do it because, a lot of people might not want to necessarily have their views tested, or they don't want to get heckled, or they're afraid of public speaking. But for me, I've been in way worse positions. I've been going after cartel members and stuff like that. So talking to some college kids is nothing. But real quick, I guess I'll talk real quick about like feminism, right? And then we'll open it up for Q&A. I won't yap too much because I don't want to give too long of a monologue. But give me one sec. So, okay. So when it comes to feminism, right? Basically what's went down, I'll quickly summarize this. Since the 1960s, right, with the sexual revolution, the invention of the birth control pill and a bunch of other things, we've seen a rise in women wanted to be treated as equals, right? And women have pretty much forgone the family and prioritized education and entering the workforce, open sexual liberation. And we thought, whoa, this is going to be great. We're all going to get laid, and women are going to be able to make their own money, and we won't have to worry about supporting them. And, it's not going to be as burdensome being a guy and taking care of a family. And quite frankly, the opposite has happened. We have some of the highest divorce rates, low marriage rates, low marital satisfaction. Both men and women are complaining about dating and how difficult it is. From the female perspective, they're having a tough time with finding a compatible partner. From the male perspective, just finding a partner is tough, right? That's why this whole term of incel is a thing nowadays versus, I guarantee you go back 50, 60 years, a common guy, a regular guy would be able to find a girl and get, do a date or have a date, get married and have a family and be able to support that family on one income. But now things have changed so much where, both parties are very unhappy with the other. And I think it's because we've kind of blurred the lines between the gender roles. Women are behaving more like men and men are behaving more like women. I'm sure a bunch of the ladies in here have probably been on a date with a guy before where he said, oh yeah, let's split it half and half. Or, hey, can you get this one and I'll get you back, but he never gets you back. Oh, I'll cash app you, Venmo you. He goes ghost. Or for men, you go out with a woman that.
Yo, that's crazy work. Don't do that. Fellas, don't do that. Don't ever Don't ever be like, yo, like I'll pay half or like, and it be working, bro. Some of y'all be pulling it off. Hey, bro, it's niggas out there that be feeding their girlfriends little grains of rice and she's still loyal. I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know what kind of rituals you niggas be doing. But for those of you who don't got magic on your side, just don't say nothing about paying half, bro. Just trust me on this. Believe me. I'm not speaking from experience. I'm just saying if you want a significant success rate, just don't do it. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Venmo is crazy. Cash App and Venmo is crazy work, but hey, it is what it is.
That, isn't really appreciative, not really feminine, not really nice, not pleasant to be around. She talks like a guy. She's very rude. She's very crass, right? She's fat, right? Let's be honest. A lot of fat women nowadays, too. Women don't really take care of their appearance like they used to. There's no shame. So I think both genders are kind of in a bad spot right now when it comes to women. Now, I tend to focus more, since I talk to men, on the problems from the female perspective, but I'd be lying to you guys if I didn't tell you guys that men aren't fucking up too, because they definitely are. But for men, the interesting thing is that the standards have pretty much been the same. Go to the gym, make money, become successful, become, someone that's a leader, competent. Like, it hasn't really changed so much for us. And the most important part, if you're a guy and you're a loser, you deal with consequences for that. Women don't date you. Other men don't let you into their circle. You get made fun of. You get called names, which is good, by the way. I'm a big proponent of bullying. I think bullying curbs a lot of problems and fixes society naturally. But on the female side, we don't correct bad female behavior, okay? If a woman is loud, obnoxious, fat, rude, no one really says anything, right? They say, oh, love your curves. Oh, they just can't handle you, right? We make all these
I don't know if, like, can y'all name a fat, loud, obnoxious woman or people like, love your curves? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's slay queen. Like, I don't know if that's, like, fat women who don't bother people tend to receive a lot of love. But fat women who, like, have multiple enemies and are, like, disrespectful, I don't know if those women actually have fans and supporters and people to slay. Like, I've never seen that shit before in my life. I will agree that, like, if you're a man who's a loser, like, you're not really gonna get much out of life. I mean, look, even I'm currently in my loser phase right now. I have a long way to go in life before I can, call myself a winner. But I don't think that, like, this, like, thing of, like, oh, like, a woman can be anything and she'll always receive, like, the utmost amount of support. Like, I don't necessarily know if that's true. And furthermore, like, I don't like the energy of, like, this woman's fat, I need to let her know she's disgusting. I feel like there's a place of, like, dissatisfaction with self that would be that you have to be really dissatisfied with yourself to feel the need to tell someone, hey, you're fat, you're disgusting. Like, y'all remember when Jordan Peterson was like not beautiful, and I ain't gonna lie, that chick was bad, by the way. She was bad. He was like, not beautiful. And I'm like, bro, you're a twig of a man who sounds like Kermit the Frog. You're not the most masculine. How you, like, even still, why would you as a man come out and publicly tell a woman, not beautiful? I feel like that's just, like, that shit's, like, it's not playa. It's not playa. It's not smooth. It's just, it's like, I feel like a lot of, in political and social commentary, a lot of us are super duper egotistical, and I think we say things or we propose ideas that, like, in real life would get you popped in the mouth, or, like, people would look at you weird, like, okay. Like, imagine if you just were like, not beautiful to a chick in her face because she was, like, chubby. Like, everyone around you might look at you like, oh, like, okay, like, this nigga might be crazy. Like they might not say something, but they'll probably be looking at you like, we won't invite this guy next time. Jordan Peterson can say that because it's on the internet and he's got millions of fans and many of them female. He'll be all right, and he has a wife, a beautiful wife, and a daughter, and all that kind of cute stuff. But if you're a random, average, everyday ninja, you can't just be out there, not beautiful. How does it voice? Not beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, it's not beautiful. When you say stuff like that and you're not Jordan Peterson, people aren't gonna like you. You know what I mean? And it's not even just that people aren't gonna like you. It's also the moral aspect of, like, how are you making someone feel when you say not beautiful? You know, like what kind of, like, is that what it means to be a man? To like, not every like harsh, ruthless truth needs to be said as a man, right? And it can't be said to everybody. Like, it doesn't work in every single situation with everybody all the time. Like when I was in the army when I was 18, like, yeah, them calling us the F slur and pussy and punk and shoving us and like talking shit, it got a lot of people motivated. It got people ready to prove themselves to the drill sergeant. But you're talking about 18-year-old impressionable kids. Like 18-year-old impressionable kids, you know, ready to fight for their country. That's a little bit different from average everyday life. You can't call somebody the F slur. Like you cannot say these things. You cannot do these things. You cannot behave in this way. You have to actually think about the value of what you're saying, not just whether or not it's true. Like, sure, most people might not find a chubby woman beautiful, but like, it's someone saying, hey, although I might not fit the broader beauty standard, some people like the way I look. I like the way I look. Let me embrace myself. Let me, you know, embrace myself publicly, if you will. Let me take pride in who and what I am. I don't understand this need from the right wing to say, not beautiful, it's not. Why? Like, you know what I mean? I just feel like that's the opposite of masculinity, in my opinion. I feel like there's something inherently non-masculine about that, in my particular opinion. Like, it's just my take. I feel like there's something masculine about being emotionally reliable has its own masculine value, if that makes sense. Like, not even just people being able to like cry on your shoulder, but in the proverbial sense, like when you talk to people, they're at peace around you. They feel secure around you. They don't feel like, oh man, like if I bring this up to this guy, he's gonna look at me like I'm a pussy, or he's gonna think I'm weird, or yeah, you know what I mean? You don't want people to feel like, oh man, like this person's judging me. I feel like there's a certain level of mental strength and protection you should provide as a masculine man, not just I can beat this person up or kill this person. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just my take.
Excuses and cope for bad female behavior. And that's kind of where I come in. And I think we've done a good job over at Fresh and Fit, where we bring women from all different walks of life. People say, oh, well, you only bring OnlyFans girls. Well, that's just a percentage of the girls we bring in. We actually do bring a lot of college-educated young women that have careers. And what I've realized is, regardless of what they do for a profession, where they're from, background, etc., a lot of women are kind of poisoned by feminist ideology, right? And they'll still want a traditional guy. They'll want a guy that could pay the bills. They want a guy that could take care of them. But what is the guy getting in return? A loud, obnoxious woman that thinks that she can go ahead and compete with him on everything. So both genders have a problem. One is verbalized on the male side and they deal with consequences, but on the female side, it almost never happens. And I'd like to credit Fresh and Fit for bringing these women in, having these tough conversations, and just kind of seeing where their mind is at. And basically, for me to boil it down, it's this. Thanks to feminism, thanks to the internet, thanks to social media, etc., women have an abundance of options. Since they have an abundance of options, they base their value on what they think they deserve with a man on the amount of options that they have. But what they don't realize is the amount of men that contact you are not the same amount of men that are going to go ahead and get down on one knee. The men that you can attract sexually might not necessarily be the same men that you can attract from a marital perspective. And I think that's one of the biggest disconnects, where women conflate options with real viable marriage options. And what ends up happening is they get a taste of these guys at the higher level, maybe an NBA player, maybe a celebrity here or there. They might hook up with it. They might even see him for a month or two. But then they're not able to keep that guy. And I think a big reason for that is because of the bad behavior I mentioned before.
I think two things are, one thing is true, one thing is false. Most of these chicks are not messing with rappers and NBA players. Like when I saw Fresh, like, yeah, most chicks are getting flown out to Dubai. I'm like, bro, you are out of your fucking mind. Like, you are on crack. Like, most women are not getting flown out to Dubai. But there is something to be said, like, when you have a lot of options, and I feel like this is just the reality of having a lot of options as people in general, but especially, you know, for women because they have more options than men. You know, you do have to keep in mind, and men also have to keep this in mind too, but more so for women, that just because somebody wants to smash does not mean they're like a lifelong partner, you know? And it's important to understand that if 15 dudes want to smash and 2 dudes are willing to put the ring on your finger, that doesn't mean that 15 dudes want to put the ring on the finger. And at some point, you're going to have to calculate, okay, what do I want and what am I willing to kind of like give up in a partner? And for men, this is kind of the same. The only difference is like most men don't have options at all. But I would encourage like both men and women to think very long and hard. What do you want in a partner long term? Rather than like, oh, like, okay, I'm gonna ride out my youth. I'm gonna like smash left, smash right, do this, do that, and allow my options to delude me into thinking I've got forever to play around. Yeah, I mean, like, you definitely don't want to forget that, like, hey, you want to get married, you want to get into a relationship and stuff like that. But like, I feel like there's this over sensationalization. Is that a word? Hyper sensational. Yeah, hyper sensational or overhyping of women don't want to get married. They just want to fuck like 2 Chainz and shit. They want to fuck, Lil Wayne and shit. They want to fuck Young Thug all day. It's like, I mean, that's just like they want to fuck LeBron all day. It's like, that's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I feel like so much the red pill could have had. This is why I miss Kevin Samuels. Because Kevin Samuels was low-key, as disrespectful as he was a lot more reasonable and rational, right? He wasn't like, all these women dating LeBron and all these women dating all these rappers. Bro, most women are not messing around with rappers and NBA players and like super rich people. Depending upon what racial background and cultural background you come from, marriage is actually quite normal at like, the early to mid 20s age range. I think Myron is on point on one aspect, that women have a lot of options, and that when you have a lot of options, you might be a little bit more prone to confusing sexual interest with actual interest. But I think women know a little bit more. I feel like there's like this kind of assumption like women can't tell, but they can tell. They know. They're people. They have brains. They know. But when you have a lot of options, you might be a lot more likely to ride out those options for as long as you can. But I don't think like this thing of like, oh, women can't tell, bro. Women know. And it's also another thing with men is like, you can't get every woman you want. So like, if you're chasing a woman who is not trying to like wife you up or wife anyone up, you have a responsibility on yourself to just let go. Like, at some point, you have to just move on. Like, if she's resolved to just not commit to you or anyone, but particularly to you, I mean, there's no amount of crying you're going to do to solve that, especially not crying. There's nothing you can do to fix that. And I think a big problem with the red pill shit that a lot of men don't talk about is there's this kind of, like, obsession with women who don't want you. And it's like, well, she needs to do this and she needs to do that. Well, how about you just let go of that person? That person's obviously so clearly not for you. And that's one aspect of the red pill shit that's not spoken about enough is, okay, let's say she was fit and in shape and pretty, and wasn't like rude or mean. Like, what's next? What are her interests? What does she like to do? What does she like to watch? Does she play video games? Does she read? Is she a sports chick? Is she athletic? Is she nerdy? Is she dorky? What? These are really important things you need to ask, because if you're going to ride out the distance with this person, you can't just, well, she's pretty and she doesn't annoy me. Like, okay. Like, at some point or another, you're not going to be satisfied with this relationship. So I think, like, the biggest flaw with the red pill is, like, there's no discussion about pursuing relationship and maintaining a relationship and finding somebody with the right character and personality to actually like be with you for the long run. So that's just my take.
But the thing with men is most guys are pussies. They're not going to tell women, hey, you're really annoying. Hey, you should probably stop that habit. Hey, that's not cool. Men don't tell women this stuff because, well, they don't want to get heckled like I did today, right? Men can't be honest with women. We just can't. And, I found it interesting how as I was talking, I was looking out into the crowd, and I could see a lot of people nodding along, but they didn't want to necessarily speak up or clap or anything like that when I said something or made a point. But the people that were, more liberal, feminist, whatever, they were the loudest ones. And that's when I said, well, this is why Trump won the election, and there was a silent majority. Because people are tired of the woke ideology. People saying that there's 99 genders. Do I deserve more or whatever? It's like, no, dude, you're a weirdo. Like, it's like.
Trump did not win a majority. Like, oh my God, bro. Trump did not win a majority. I mean, here's another thing as well. Like this whole thing of like men are logical and women are emotional. What I've come to understand is that people are a lot more emotional in general than we actually like realize. Women, despite being the more emotional, like, yeah, women are probably a lot more likely to break down in tears in public, right? But at that voting booth, y'all were warned about them tariffs. You niggas were warned about all the shit that was gonna happen. People told y'all. And you still went. Men still went. You know, most black men did not vote for Trump, but there was an increase. White men, you know, unfortunately still on that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Still on that bullshit. Hispanic men seem to have forgotten that they could be deported. A lot of men, what did the white girls be saying? Delulu? A lot of them men, bro, of all races decided we gonna go Delulu. They went to the voting booth on that Delulu shit, and Trump won. He did his little dance, and now you got little kids with cancer being yeeted over the border. And now you got the tariffs coming in. Now you got the economy being fucked up. Now we're heading toward a recession. So I think it's hilarious to sit there and say like, oh, you know, the silent majority of rational, logical men who just can't speak their mind. I mean, there is something to be said about the fact that there is a cultural aspect to why a lot of people voted Trump. But, like, you know, there is also something to be said, like, hey, if men are so logical and rational and so, like, you know, beyond the bullshit, why did they vote for an obviously bad candidate? Why did they vote for clearly intellectually and scholarly bankrupt policies? You know, if you really think about it, it's just not realistic that because men are more emotional, they're going to make the more logical choice. I mean, we see that today. Women are finishing school, they're graduating, they're getting their GDP. They're getting their GDP. They're getting their PhDs, they're getting their degrees. But men are actually falling out. Men are dropping out. Men aren't staying on the path. Right. And I think there are understandable reasons for why. I think today's day and age has definitely drawn away a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging, a sense of community, a sense of pride. I think a lot of young men are you know, there's no, you know, getting a girlfriend's really, really difficult. Social media has made competition so difficult that a lot of young men don't have friends. They don't have girlfriends. They're just like drifting through life wondering, what is my fate? But women are getting done what needs to get done. And the women have their own problems, their own issues they deal with. So, you know, I think there's something to be said about the fact that life is not really as cut and dry as it's portrayed to be by anybody who proposes a certain ideology. I think it's full of gray. I think it's full of, you know, complexities and spillovers and things of that nature. I don't think things are as cut and dry as people portray them to be at all. You know, I mean, even I wish I don't know if I wish I stayed in school. I don't know if I was still in school, I would have graduated in 2023. I think. No, I would have graduated in 2024. So the year that I dropped Why I Left the Right would have been the year I graduated. So it's possible we wouldn't even be having this conversation. This live wouldn't be happening. My success wouldn't have taken place. Like, all the stuff I'm enjoying right now wouldn't be a thing had I finished school. But I part of me does want to go back and actually, you know, get a degree and get stuff done and figure things out, you know. So even I, someone who's kind of like doing things a little bit different, even I who kind of found some like rare success in YouTube, because it's not normal to like have big hit videos and to like have a sustainable audience. Even I like think about like going back and getting shit done, you know what I mean? So if you're in school, don't like drop out because Rashad dropped out. Well, he dropped out, so I'm gonna drop out too. Don't do that.
Like, look, if you want to go ahead and call yourself a woman when you're really a man, then that's your problem. We don't have to go ahead and buy into your fairy tale. It's weird. So, but that's kind of where we are now, where men can't be honest. We can't say what's really on our mind, and we can't really hold women to a standard and make them better. Because I truly do think we're at a point now where if a guy gets in a relationship with a girl, he's got to have very strong boundaries and be able to coach his woman to be the proper girlfriend for him and eventually a wife if she passes the test. But a lot of guys don't have the balls to do this because we're taught, oh, accept her however she comes, right? They always tell you be a man, but we never tell women to be women, right? We never tell them, hey, be a lady. We just say, oh, okay, you behave however you want. And I'm kind of saying what everyone is thinking, right? And I got the numbers to back it up, that men simply don't see a lot of women as marriage material. Another thing that I've also noticed over the past couple of years is there's been an influx in the passport movement, in the passport bro movement. For those that are unaware, I'm sure the women might not know what I'm talking about here. The passport bro movement is a movement where a lot of guys basically go to foreign countries in South America, Africa, Eastern Asia, etc., and find themselves a partner. And I know some people might say, "Oh, wow, why are guys doing that? Are they desperate or whatever?" Well, these are some of the places where there's still some remnants of femininity, women that behave like ladies. And the thing is that men don't really care about a woman's education or status. Men are more concerned with a girl that's going to respect them, that follows their lead, that admires them, that it obeys them, right?
This is where I gotta disagree. If you're a man, especially if you're a young man, you should be worried about whether or not your girl has an education. If you guys get married and one day you slip on a brick and you die, her having an education and being able to get a decent job is important. Because if your ass just drops dead, let's say nigga, you eat a Wendy's cheeseburger and that motherfucker got that motherfucking, what's that burger called in Grand Theft Auto, the Heartstopper? You eat one of them right there and that's it for your ass? Hey bro, somebody's got to take care of those kids, right? If your wife doesn't want to remarry, it would be really beneficial if she had an education, she had the ability to get a well-paying job. As it pertains to the passport bro stuff, I mean, here's what I'll say. I don't mean to sound petty, but like, if you have to leave your cultural group to find a mate, you might not be thriving within your cultural group. And that might be a reason for a woman to not really want to marry you. I feel like if you're struggling to get a woman in America, there's a significant chance that even if you bring a Latina from Colombia or a Nigerian woman or a Vietnamese woman to the States, there's a significant chance that there's something about you that's going to make even that relationship fail. You probably aren't very ambitious. You're probably not very hardworking. You probably don't have good social skills. There's probably a lot of shit going on within your life that's making it hard for you to find a woman of your own cultural background. Normally I wouldn't, like, if you're like a first generation immigrant or a second generation immigrant, passport bro stuff is a little bit different. But if you're someone who's like decades like removed from like your home country and you're like an American, I don't want to say real American, but you know what I mean. Like if you're like a multi-generational American, or if you're like what do the white nationalists say? A legacy American, a heritage. If you're a descendant of slaves or a descendant of colonists, if you're white or black, white Anglo-Saxon, black American, I really don't recommend that you do passport bro stuff. I mean, I'm not the expert here. I just don't think you should do that. I just don't think it's a good idea. And also, like, the kind of woman who would just like pack up her shit and just leave. Like, how long do you need to stay in like Colombia or any of these countries to establish a strong enough relationship with this person to where she's willing to leave? You have language barrier. You've got motherfucking cultural barrier. You've got family barrier. You've got motivational barrier. You don't know why the fuck she's leaving with you, nigga. It might be one of them hoes that be like taking your organs and shit. She put that little thing in your tea. You wake up, whole stomach open. You just wake up dead. I mean, like, bro, you don't like, bro. There's so many different reasons why I really don't recommend. Financial barriers as well. Her family could be dirt fucking broke. You don't know what kind of drama is going on in that family, financial issues. I mean, you're kind of like inviting a whole host of unknowns into your bloodline, into your family. And it also is like, what is the practicality? Like, how long does it take for you to chill out there before you meet this person, before you establish a good relationship with this person, before you know this person's safe to leave with your children, like to have children with? Like, I mean, like, what are the logistics of being a passport bro? How much money? I feel like at that point you're kind of just like buying a woman, which, I mean, like, I don't mean like buying them like trafficking sense, but I feel like at that point you're kind of just throwing money at the problem, not in the sense of like, I feel like you're kind of just like, to be able to do the passport bro shit, you have to be really, really wealthy to pack up all your shit, leave, go to another country, establish a place of living there, be there long enough to go to bars, go to clubs, go here, go there, wherever you're meeting them at, right? Because it's not like you have a community there. So you're probably meeting these women under dubious pretenses to begin with, right? You're probably meeting them at the club or at the bar, right? It's not like you're going to like the librarian club in Colombia. You can't read Spanish. You don't know what the fuck you talking about. So automatically, where you're meeting her at is probably sus. You probably gonna wake up missing your heart, your brain, your liver, all type of shit. You might wake up dead. She probably might come from a poor family. She might have dubious motivations. She, you have no cultural connection. I mean, bro, it doesn't really sound like Passport Bro makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like it can't just be, I need a beautiful, submissive woman. There has to be some kind of there has to be an actual cultural and like real connection between you and that person. And it's going to be really hard to do that when you're meeting someone from a different country. It's one thing if they're like an exchange student and you're going to see them every day and they're making an effort to learn English and you're vibing with them and you know what I mean? It's another thing if your ass pops up in their country, you don't speak the language, no speak of the English, you don't speak the language, you don't speak of the English, you have no understanding of the cultural customs, which makes you green. You can easily be taken advantage of because you don't know what the fuck going on. You're green as fuck. Niggas don't know what the fuck going on. Yo ass wake up dead. You don't know what her family background is. You don't know if they're good with money. You don't know what the drama is. I mean, bro, Passport Bro just sounds like a lot of headache, you know? Like, it sounds cool, like, on paper. I'm gonna sail the 7 seas and find me, like, a bad bitch, like, in the jungles and shit, or whatever these niggas be talking about. Or I'm gonna go to, like, Eastern Europe and find me a good Slavic woman or whatever. It sounds great on paper, but in practice this sounds like a headache. I'd much rather just wait around for like my American queen. You know what I'm saying? Can I wait for my red, white, and blue, stars and stripes queen? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd much rather wait for my American queen than to like be going up and down the planet looking for a chick. You know what I mean? And it's also like, what the it'd be impossible for me. It would just be impossible for me to do. Like, I especially like going down the whole YouTube. I mean, Lord, bro, it'd be impossible. I just don't. I don't think any of this would work. You know what I mean? What's another thing I was gonna say? He was talking about like, people are like, oh, accept women how they are. You can't say this, you can't say that. Accept women how they are. I think it is probably a little bit irresponsible to tell people like, accept her as she is, da 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 da. You never ever ignore a person's character traits. Unfortunately, some men do need someone to snap them out of the Disney fantasy because a lot of men don't interact. Here's why the Red Pill is so successful in part. A lot of men have never interacted with women. So as a result, they're kind of going off of one of two. They're going off of what someone's told them. So it's either like the Disney-esque kind of narrative of just accept her as she is and don't judge and, she'll love you for who you are and da-da-da-da-da, which like is true in theory. But if you never really dated, you're probably not going to have the wherewithal to like approach relationships with a little bit of caution, a little bit of judgment, not verbal and vicious, but, underlying and careful. And because a lot of these guys have never dated before, they're susceptible to characters like Myron and Andrew Tate and these kinds of characters. That's why I tell guys like Red Pill to an extent makes some semblance of sense sometimes. But in order for you to really know what's good for you, you have to go out and date. You have to talk to people. There's no amount of like advice that's going to fix it all. Like there's some advice the Red Pillars give that makes sense, but you're not going to know what works for you until you actually make an effort to talk to people. And then most women not being marriage material. I mean, it varies, right? Marriage material is subjective. What works for you is probably not going to work for everyone. Like I know I can't date a chick who's like a sports person. I just can't. Like if you're like big into sports, we're not gonna. I love UFC, and boxing, and that's it. I'm not big into sports. I don't really care about my kids play. I mean, I would want them to play. I would prefer if they played sports, but I just don't care about it. Like, I'm not keeping up with how many points LeBron put up this season. I don't care. I just don't care. Like, I swear to God, I just don't. I don't care about that. You know, like, I know, like, for me, a nerdy, dorky, kind of like bookish kind of chick is more my speed. You got to know stuff like this, because if you don't and you go in a relationship, well, she's kind of cute and she doesn't argue a lot, you're going to be sitting there not really enjoying each other's company. You're not really going to like marriage material is not just, damn, she a hoe. It's also, well, you know, we don't really have a lot of overlapping interests. We don't have, you know, chemistry. We can't talk for hours. We can't, you know, bounce ideas off each other's heads. We can't, you know, that kind of stuff is invaluable in the long run. Because if you can't do that, then what's the point of being in a relationship? You might as well just die. Okay, I'm just kidding. That was a joke. I'm not saying you should die. But you might as well just stay single. That was a joke. Don't. Just, he told me to jump off a cliff. Stop. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, if you're dating somebody who you don't have much in common with personally, then I feel like you're kind of wasting your time. You know, marriage material is not just, is she nagging you all the time, but more so like, you know, is there a match? Like, can you, like, are you actually vibing out, you know? What else did he say that I wanted to... Oh, he was like, you know, he said, I feel like I'm interrupting him a lot, but whatever. Somebody... Bro, what did he say? He was like, men don't care about, you know... Oh, yeah, I think I already covered that. He was like, men don't care about how much money you make or whether you have, like, an education. Fellas, don't listen to these red pill niggas. If you're rich, it kind of doesn't matter. But, if you're like an average everyday dude, it really is important. Like, your wife needs to have some ability to like get it, to like acquire like a reasonable income. If you're rich, it doesn't matter. But even then, it kind of does matter. But like, yeah, like if you're a middle class or a like lower class guy, yeah, like your girl having some semblance of financial independence is important, because, hey, bro, them bills is real, and you're gonna have to team up with her to pay them. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna be easy. And then, yeah, he was like, training up your woman, training her. I mean, bro, if your girl doesn't know how to cook and you know how to cook, you should probably like teach her how to do that. That's pretty much it in terms of training someone. You know, if your girl is like an unruly tyrant who's like kicking down Legos and like destroying, yeah, I mean, like, you probably, there's no kind of training you can really do. But I mean, like, yeah, I mean, you know, if your partner doesn't know how to like cook or clean, you probably would want to teach her. I think gender roles are something that people kind of just naturally gravitate toward. And I think if you marry someone who really fucks with you and you're on the same page, you know, it should work out, you know? And yeah, everyone should know how to cook. Yeah, everyone needs to know. Like, you need, like, it cannot, like, I cannot imagine like my kids just eating out every day. We're going to McDonald's. Like, how many times can you do that before you're like, oh my God, and it'll just end it all? You know what I mean? Like, how many quarter pounders and how many chicken nuggets do you eat before you realize, Mom, are we poor? are we poor? Are we broke? Are we suffering? You know what I mean? Like, how many times do you eat that before you like, wait a minute. Who are you? You know what I mean? I'm just joking, okay? But yeah, I mean, like, poor or not, you gotta know how to cook. At some point, it's like, God damn, like, we eating McDonald's again? Like, shit. You know, it would be like, it'd be terrifying, like, the thought that like my kids would just be like eating like quarter pounders for the rest of their lives. Like, imagine that just sitting in your system for a decade, just like a bunch of quarter pounders. That's crazy work. But yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of the red pill advice is fantastical. It's very much fan fiction. It's not realistic. But some of it kind of makes sense. But like, so much of like understanding this shit relies upon you actually talking to people. Otherwise, you'll like, you know, yeah.
And I mean, one girl got triggered when I said obey. And I'm like, what? A guy can't like give instruction to a woman? It's like, you want me to go ahead and pay the bills and take care of you, whatever, but you're not going to obey me? Like, that's ridiculous. That's slavery. Responsibility without authority is slavery. And I'll be damned if we're going to be slaves to bitches. No. You know?
Bro, come on. Like, bro, is this shit necessary? You know what I'm saying? Like, do we gotta, like, like, it's like, do we have to say that? Do we have to say that word, in this context? Like, do we have to do this? Like, I feel like most women don't mind gender roles, but, like, if you have to tell your girl to obey, something's wrong. Probably shouldn't be with her. You know what I'm saying? Like, if your partner loves you and you're like, hey, do this, and she thinks it makes sense, she'll probably just do it. But, like, if you're at the point where you're like, obey your master, something is incredibly wrong. Something has gone terribly wrong. Yeah. I mean, I feel like if you have to say obey, one of three things is happening. What you're saying don't make sense. She's falling out of love with you, which is a completely crazy situation. Like, you got to figure that one out. Or you really shouldn't have been with her in the first place. Y'all aren't compatible. Something is horribly wrong.
So all I'm telling guys to do is really, like, understand their worth and make women earn it. That's really what it is. And trust me, they'll respect you more for it anyway. So that's what's going on, where these guys are going to these other countries, and it's because Western women have become so insufferable and so difficult to deal with. And again, the numbers are on my side when it comes to this. This is why so many guys go to these different places. So with that said, can you still find great women in America? Of course, but it's just harder to find because feminism is permeated so, strongly throughout society that a lot of women adopt these ideologies where she doesn't feel like she needs to submit to you. She doesn't feel like she needs to listen to you. She doesn't feel like she needs to adhere to her ladylike tendencies. Instead, she could behave however she wants, but she still expects you to be the man.
You know what I think? I think the purpose of the passport bro shit is honestly just to, like, I feel like a lot of these guys know deep down they're not valuable. So they go to try to find some, like, younger, impressionable, easily duped woman in another country who has no frame of reference for how things work in America. Grab her, bring her back, and then have this perfect little household, and I feel like you're kind of, that's like what does Charles Stewart say, the BBL on the belly? That's kind of like cheating. Like, that's kind of like going to the doctor and, like, saying, doctor, can you suck out the fat? I suck out the fat. Like, bro, you need to, if you're struggling with American women, you need to ask yourself truthfully why. I don't think the problem is that Western women are nasty and unruly and chaotic. I just think that when someone isn't at your every whim, it's a lot easier to control them. It's a lot harder to control someone who can get a job and move out and take care of themselves. It's a lot harder to bully someone who has financial and independence and social mobility. It's a lot harder to do that. And I think that's part of the reason why these dudes hop a flight to go abroad, is because it's easier. It's easier to, take advantage of that person and to manipulate them and get them to do what you want when they have nothing. Like, think about being like, what if you're like one of those women who, like, really does love your passport bro hubby? Like, you just meet this guy and you're like, I love him so much. You come to America and it turns out this guy's actually demonic. What are you gonna do? Where are you gonna go? Who are you gonna call? You think the head of state of your country is gonna make, like, an appeal on your behalf and call out President Trump and, Mr. Trump, can you return, like, is that like an Indian accent or whatever? They could call her, I don't care. Calling Trump's phone talking about, can you return this woman, bro? That nigga, he probably actually might return her if she's brown. But the point is, look, the point is, if you do that, can't nobody come save you. You know what I'm saying? Can't nobody save you. And I think that's the core of the passport bro thing is, I don't want to have to actually earn this on merit. I want to kind of, like, cheat the game and cheat the system and go find someone who's vulnerable to manipulation. I feel like as a man, if you have to get a passport bro wife, maybe you're not there yet. maybe your genetics aren't valuable enough to pass on to the next generation. It's just a thought. Just something to ponder. Like, I think if you have to resort to passport bro shit, maybe you're not, maybe you just don't have good, because it's not just how you look on the outside. It's not just about broad shoulders and a handsome face and, big muscles. It's also about in here. It's about in here. If you have to go abroad, chances are what's in here is not, it's not adding up, I think there are some cases where the passport bro stuff makes sense. Like, it could, like, if you're like a first generation immigrant or a second generation, but like, well, if you're like a full on like gringo American like me, I'm sorry, bro. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, where are you going? What are you doing? Come on now.
If someone breaks into the house, you're supposed to go deal with it. If someone grabs the purse, you're supposed to go chase them down. If someone insults her, you're supposed to stand up for her. But she won't go ahead and obey you. That's crazy to me, right? And the example I always give a lot of the times, Donald Trump is the most powerful person right now in the world, right, as the president of the United States. And I find it interesting when he was in Butler, Pennsylvania, and they shot at him, and he almost got assassinated. He wanted to stay there. He rises up, puts his fist in there, and he says, fight, fight, fight. He didn't want to leave, right? We all know that Donald Trump has a little bit of an ego, right? Which successful men typically have that mindset. He didn't want to leave, but guess what? Secret Service dragged him off. Why? Because even though he's the most powerful man in the world, he still needs to adhere to the people that are responsible for his safety. So they tell him, no, you're leaving, and they pulled him out of there. So if the people that are responsible for protecting the most powerful man in the world dictates the role of, hey, you need to leave, well, it should be the same way with the man with his wife, right, or his girlfriend. If I tell a girl and I'm dating her and I care about her and I tell her, hey, look, I don't want you going to the club with your girlfriends, or hey, I don't want you going out after a certain time. Well, some women will sit there and say, well, that's controlling, that's insecure. Well, what's more insecure? Me being scared of telling you the truth because you might leave me, or me telling you what you need to hear and not necessarily what you want to hear for your own safety? I would argue the person that tells her what needs to be said is actually very secure, because I don't give a fuck what you think. You're not going outside at this time. Oh, what the fuck? That's insecure. Well, look, I'm telling you what it is. If you walk out that door, you're single. And you'd be amazed at how many women would actually respect it and say, you know what? I'm going to sit my ass inside. Because the reality is, women like to test you sometimes, and they want to see if you can stand up to their bullshit, right? They do it all the time. So, and it works in her benefit, because now she feels safe. She's with you. You don't got to worry about anything. But sometimes you got to be able to put your foot down with women, even though society tells you not to do that, and it's insecure or toxic or controlling. The only thing that's controlling here is me being in control of my life, which means I need a woman that's going to follow my lead, not a woman that's going to come in and create a bunch of pandemonium and do whatever she feels like. Because when women do stupid shit, they hurt us. I'll give you guys an example.
I'm going to say this. If you're in a relationship, certain shit got to go. People are not going to agree with this, but I'm going to just say it. If you're in a relationship, having friends of the opposite sex isn't necessarily a bad thing, but like me personally, I don't have female friends. Like, if I'm in a relationship, there's no female I'm talking to, like, outside of the person I'm with. Like, there's no female I'm linking up with, hanging out with, texting consistently. I might like a picture or, look at a story, not like that. But, we're not talking because I'm like in a relationship and like we have nothing to talk about. I feel like if you're leaving the house at 8 or 9 p.m. to go to the club, there's something wrong with the relationship. Like, we can be grown. Like, I feel like we could be grown adults and admit, like, hey, look, if that's what you feel like doing, maybe a committed relationship is not for you. Not too many people go to the club just to go. Okay, now if you go with your partner, which a lot of people do, that's different. But we're human beings. We're human beings. We're animals, right? We know why people, both male and female, go to the club, dress a certain way at a certain time of night. We know why. What I'll say is this. If you meet a chick and you know she's living like that before you date her, my nigga, all right, just know, like, you know what you're signing up for. Like, you know how this is gonna end. You know where this is gonna. You know she's not gonna be loyal. You know what's gonna happen. Now, if it just springs up out of nowhere, I wouldn't know what to do in that situation. I'm not sure. But when you got someone leaving the house at 8 or 9 p.m. to go to the club or to the bar, look, my nigga, you know what I'm saying? Like, there might be a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, there might be a problem. Yeah, I don't do like the whole like, oh, he's just my friend. There's no such thing as male friends. I'm sorry. Acquaintances, like, oh, I know that person. Hi, that's one thing. But most these dudes, like, if a guy is just your friend, he's not going to talk to you consistently. I'll just say that. If he's just your friend, you're not going to hear from him on a consistent basis. Like, I'm just going to put it like that, bro. If he is just your friend, you're not going to hear from him all the time. Probably not going to be a lot of interaction unless you're friends in a setting in which you see each other consistently. Then that's another story. But if you're friends from around the way, or if you met somewhere a long time ago but don't see each other often, you're probably not going to hear from each other consistently. That's just my take. People can disagree with that. People can call it insecure if you want to. But I think that if you're in a committed relationship, it's inappropriate, both male and female. Like, bro, if you go to the club, tank top, you go into the gym, you go to the club, tank top, chain on, you know what I'm saying? You know, bro, you know what you're doing. You know, it's 9 p.m., bro. You're not coming back till 2. Bro, you know what you're doing. You're not going there to just vibe out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going there to vibe out. Let's just talk. Let's just tell the truth. You're not there to just vibe. You know, just because you don't score doesn't mean you're just there to vibe. Like, we know what's going on here. And I think that, you know, adults shouldn't, like, I feel like if you're one of those people who's like, it's just an outing, I think you should also be able to tell your partner, like, look, my G, I'm not feeling this. It's not working. Not enjoying this. We need to talk about this before I do something I regret, or before you do something you regret. Let's talk this out. Rather than, like, engaging in very obviously concerning behavior and then using the you're insecure defense. Like, come on. There's certain things you just don't do when you're committed. You know, you don't go to the club at 10 p.m., dress a certain way, like, in a committed relationship where you want your partner to, like, you know, come on. You know, you know what kind of behavior makes your partner feel uncomfortable, you know, within reason, you know. If your man's getting mad because you went out to throw out the trash with some shorts on and like a tank, like, obviously he's crazy, a crazy person. But yeah, like, if you're going to the club dressed how you know how at a certain time of night, you know what it is. Like, we don't have to pretend. And I think that these kinds of situations really aren't men versus women. It's really not. It's not male versus female and which gender is a hoe and which isn't. It's just some behaviors are very clearly dangerous for a committed relationship. And I think in some of those situations, it's time to talk it out. It's time to talk it out. It's time to have a discussion and talk things out before somebody does something really stupid. That's just my take.
I'm sure you guys remember roughly 2 years ago? Will Smith, legendary actor, sitting at a red table with his wife, right? And guess what happens? She goes ahead and says some stupid shit. Oh, I had a, what's the term? An entanglement, right? I had an entanglement. And in that instant, bam, career gone. Nobody remembers iRobot. Nobody remembers I Am Legend. Nobody remembers Men in Black. Nobody remembers Independence Day. Nobody remembers Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Nothing. All I remember seeing was Will Smith sitting at a table with red eyes, on the verge of tears from his woman embarrassing him on TV. And he still hasn't recovered. Then he had the slap with Chris Rock. And I give you guys that example to show you that a man with a background like Will Smith, who's literally a legend in music and entertainment and acting and movies and TV shows, this guy's a legend. But his legacy has been tarnished because what? A stupid bitch that wanted to be a whore. And this is what I mean when I tell guys.
Why this nigga gotta say it like that? Is there not a better way to describe this? Like, does it have to be like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, look, Will Smith obviously agreed to something that he probably has come to regret. Like, obviously, that was probably a bad move. Nothing positive came from it. Like, very clearly, that was a mistake. But, I mean, bro, the mistake wasn't necessarily the open relationship or whatever they had going on. I feel like the mistake was even talking about it publicly. Like that Red Table Talk podcast was a mistake. He shouldn't have done it. She shouldn't have done it. They should have kept that private. It was very obvious that Will was somewhat affected by it. You could read the body language. But there's a reason why the meme from that interview lasted like years. It's been a minute since I've seen it, but that meme of Will Smith's face was unavoidable for a while. Like, for a while, bro. I don't know if I agree that everybody forgot every single thing Will Smith has ever done in one moment. That's a little bit of an exaggeration. But yeah, I mean, like, I feel like some things aren't for the public. Like, some things are not for the public. Stuff like the entanglement episode of the Red Table Talk, and that should have never seen the light of day. I don't think that has anything to do with Jada Smith being a horrible person or a B word or whatever, and more to do with the fact that, like, that couple made some decisions as a couple, as a relationship, as spouses that obviously led to something negative, right? Clearly, Will Smith felt either A, uncomfortable talking about the August Alsina situation, or B, just uncomfortable, like, even acknowledging that it exists. Just the fact that it happened made him uncomfortable. And I feel like that shit had an effect, right? Because it all culminated in the slap. Nobody could tell me anything. Bro, Will Smith slapped Chris Rock because his masculinity was being questioned by the world. The world. For years after that, bro, that Red Table Talk episode took a chunk of Will Smith's soul. You can't tell me shit. The memes, the jokes, the bullshit, but he was never the same. It's like he was deployed to Iraq. He just was never the same. He was never the same. This nigga came back from that Red Table Talk. Boy, that nigga was never the same. Bro, when Chris Rock made that joke, that man walked up on that stage and smacked him. That was not, bro, that was coming from a place of Will Smith. Honestly, everybody was clowning him, shitting on him, hating on him, questioning his masculinity, just disrespecting him. And he took that moment to slap the earth, wind, and fire out of Chris Rock. I ain't gonna lie. I might have crashed out if I was Chris Rock. I would have thrown the mic at him. I would have kicked him down the steps. I would have elbow dropped him from the top rope. I would have thrown the mic at Jada. I would have went crazy. I would have took my credit cards like ninja stars and start throwing it at people, killing every. Okay, I'm just kidding. But I would have been tight, bro. I would have been upset. Bro, you can't tell me that Will Smith wasn't affected by that Red Table Talk. But I think there's something to be said. Like, I think Will Smith obviously probably wasn't built for the situation he created, and obviously should have kept it quiet. You know what I'm saying? Like, he should have kept it quiet. Like, clearly the open relationship doesn't seem like something you're proud of, doesn't seem like something you want people to know about, and that's fine. He shouldn't have done the podcast with Jada at all. He should not have acknowledged any of that publicly. He should have just, like, not paid any attention to it. I mean, I think there's some blame to be laid at Will Smith's feet. And, yeah, bro. I mean, at the end of the day, like, at the end of how the New York niggas be, at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, it is what it is, I just feel like certain things just need to stay quiet, bro, for the sake of the relationship. For the sake of the relationship, bro. But I don't think we should be calling Jada Pinkett Smith the B word like that,
Right, that's facts. Bro,
I know he made fun of her hair, but, like, life's not linear. Life's not linear. Life's not that simple, bro. You're talking about a man whose masculinity was debased and defiled for years, bro. I feel like a lot of y'all forgot how bad that shit was, bro. Will Smith Bro, after that interview, it was like he was deployed to a war zone. It's like he was shot at by Al Qaeda, the Taliban, ISIS. He was in a torture room. Bro, it was like Will Smith was on the battlefield. And then he came back. Bro, he was never the same, bro. Like, there's nothing any of y'all can tell me, bro. It was not just about the hair. I promise you it was not. Because, bro, I'm telling you, that kind of a slap and that carrying on and that yelling and all of that, bro, that came from a place of, that was not just, hey, don't make fun of my wife. That was definitely a combination of multiple things. Because Chris Rock actually had a history of making fun of Jada Smith. And there was an established history of like them being like, hey man, like, could you stop? Apparently he didn't stop. But there's no way that wasn't a perfect storm, bro. There's no way that wasn't a mixture of Chris Rock keep making fun of Jada, her hair, falling off, and this was Will Smith's chance to take his masculinity back. It didn't work, but this was his chance to earn back his stripes, to become the Fresh Prince once again. That shit did not work. It didn't work.
Went from I am legend to I am simp. Like, what's going on here? So this is what I mean. If a woman like that could destroy Will Smith's legacy, what the fuck do you think is going to happen to you guys? Right? Will Smith can't even save himself from these whores. Shannon Sharp just got accused yesterday. Literally yesterday. Some woman trying to shake him down for $50 million. Right? Now, gladly enough, I do see that there's quite a bit of criticism and people questioning this woman's character and her potentially lying. But I think it's important for you guys to understand that she would not make a baseless and ridiculous accusation like that had we not been living in this crazy gynocentric society where we have this believe all women mindset, right? We have women coming after Brett Kavanaugh. We have women coming after Andrew Tate with the whole thing out of California. Chick said, oh, I got slapped. And you look at her face and she has literally two of the same identical marks, which come from surgery, not from getting slapped, right? It's not like Andrew was like, hey, bitch, put your face this way, and then smack her, and then, okay, do it right here. I got to get a perfect degree. And smack her again perfectly. Like, no, bro. But the reason why women feel okay with making these wild accusations and lying on men with this Me Too era is because they know they're going to get the benefit of the doubt. And then on top of that, if they fail, are they going to jail? No. The Johnny Depp case proved this, right? Thankfully, right? Johnny Depp recorded the conversations, which he had to do illegally, by the way. He recorded the conversations to prove that this woman was batshit fucking crazy. Quite literally batshit crazy, shitting on beds and stuff. So, thankfully, he had that evidence and he was able to prove that he was innocent. But what did he have to do? He had to take her to trial. He had to go take it all the way through, spent millions of dollars on a legal team, lost millions of dollars with the Pirates of the Caribbean series, lost a bunch of sponsorships. His reputation was destroyed for a period of time. So he basically he was guilty and then he had to prove himself innocent. And that's kind of the society we're in. If a woman makes an accusation, they believe her. Now, with that said, I want to be very clear about this. Sexual assault and rape are very serious crimes, and the people that perpetrate them need to go to jail, right? I'm a firm believer that women need to be protected. But at the same time, we also need to penalize the women that literally do this for monetary benefit and lie, right? We saw it happen with Kobe Bryant. We saw it happen with so many different powerful individuals where the women are kind of suing to get a payday. And now what's going on with Shannon Sharp is just, another example. He announces he's going to get a $100 million podcast deal, and then like the next day or two, she's over here going to the biggest clout chase lawyer, Busby or whatever his name is, who's representing a bunch of other people. He represented the chick that made the accusation against Jay-Z. He's representing the chick that made the accusation against Andrew Tate. Like, this guy's just trying to get a dollar because he knows a lot of the times famous men that have a status are going to settle, right? They're going to want to, I don't want to deal with this. They're going to just settle. So, but she would not have mounted that attempt, this like literally shameless attempt to make money, had it not been for the current environment that we have now, where we have this, gynocentric society where women are always right, men are always wrong, women can do whatever they want, but men are held to static standards, and it's just ridiculous. So my thing is this. I think men need to become men. I think men need to be the leaders, and quite frankly, if a woman doesn't want to follow you, all right, cool, you stay single, but we're not going to sit here and tolerate the fuckery for women. And I think a lot of guys need to learn this skill set, because a lot of guys think, well, if I just be a nice guy, be a traditional guy, like girls are going to like me. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not 1955, it's 2025, and women have changed quite a bit. So you have to adapt to the new normal. So this is why, I wrote the book, Why Women Deserve Less, where I talk about how feminism has kind of come in and completely switched the sexual marketplace, where being a nice guy is actually detrimental for you. It'll get you put in a very bad predicament a lot of the times. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can get destroyed, because if you get married as a man in today's day and age, you take way more risk on, right? We know that women win 90% plus of child custody battles. We know 90% of alimony goes to women. We know women initiate 80% of the divorces. So if you go ahead and get married, you got a lot to lose, especially if you're an individual with a higher net worth. So guys need to really go in with their eyes wide open, because women will divorce you and destroy your life if they just get bored, right? I have a saying, women will sacrifice their family for happiness, but men will sacrifice their happiness for their family, right? Because we understand that there's a burden of performance. From the time we're little boys, what do they say? Hey, become successful so you can go ahead and take care of a family, right? We're told this from the time we're young. So we always understood from a young age that we needed to not just be able to provide for ourselves, but have excess resources to be able to support a family. So, but we don't tell little girls to be good wives. We tell them, oh yeah, you could do everything a man could do. You could be an astronaut or whatever, and some of these girls end up being astronauts for real on fucking OnlyFans, but that's a whole other conversation. You know what I'm saying?
So what do we have here? So one piece of advice, let her go if she doesn't want to cooperate with what you got going on. Or he probably used a crazy word like obey or submit. Okay, that's true. Yeah, I mean, if she's not down with the plan, probably let her go, as long as your plan isn't crazy. I don't necessarily know if being nice is going to destroy you. I don't know if that's true. Here's what I'll say. Being nice isn't the problem. I think you have to understand, like, some people just don't like you. Some people just don't like you. And there's no amount of niceness that can change that. There's no amount of flowers. There's no amount of donuts. There's no amount of, I'm just thinking about donuts. There's no amount of cake, chocolates, flowers. There's just nothing you can really do to fix it. Some people just don't like you. And there are women out there who might think of, this guy just doesn't do it for me, but I'm going to marry him because he's got money and he's stable. If, there are a lot of red flags that you can, use to kind of figure out if you're dealing with that kind of person. If you being, you don't want to be a stepping stone, a stepping stool, right? You don't want to be a pussy. Right? If being nice is it's relative, right? It's subjective. As long as you're not literally being her butler, you're fine. That's it. Like, there's nothing, like, you don't have to, as long as you're not being her butler, as long as every other sentence isn't some corny compliment, you're gonna be okay. However, even still, some people aren't going to like you. That's okay. Just surrender this fact and move on. As it pertains to women aren't taught how to be good wives and stuff growing up. I mean, yeah, society doesn't really talk about that. I mean, maybe we should, maybe we should, like, say, hey, like, if you're from like an immigrant background, like a recent immigrant background, yeah, probably you're gonna get a lot of coaching on how to do this when you grow up and you're a wife one day or whatever. But I don't think that, like, that's the core issue. I think the core issue is incompatible people trying to create something permanent long term. And I think that's the biggest obstacle. If you're getting the vibes from a woman that she doesn't enjoy being a wife, because people naturally gravitate toward gender roles, especially if they're in a relationship that they're happy in. So if you feel like you're kind of having to, like, convince the woman you're with to be a mom and be a wife, mission abort, okay? She's fired, as Vince McMahon would say, okay? She's fired. Mission abort, okay? I would draw this on screen, but no. Yeah, I mean, like, mission abort in that situation. So he's about to head into the Q&A, and I ain't gonna lie, shout out to Myron for keeping the monologue short. I respect that. A lot of people go on and on and on, like I've just done. So respect for that.
Saying, but yeah, so I think guys need to understand that this is the new normal that we're in, and you need to adapt. Does that mean treat women like shit? No. But what I am saying is that you absolutely need to make women earn your time, attention, and resources. So I'll end the monologue there. If anybody has any questions or comments or disagrees or agrees or anything, I'll turn it to you guys. Sure. Do we have mics for them, or do they? Okay, sweet.
I just want to say shout out to Castle Club,
Hey,
shout
what
out
up,
to
man?
Josie, shout out to Jake, shout out to the YouTube chat, shout out to the Roman chat. Y'all the goats, and thank you, Maya, for coming. And you the goat, and that's all I gotta say.
Appreciate that, Jibril. That's one of our G's right there.
My bad. All right. Hey, how's it going?
That's one of your G's? That can't be one of the G's. That can't be one of the OGs. Something ain't right with that.
So I just want to ask if, understanding that the law is a teacher and, kind of like laws and kind of shape like social taboos and kind of the society we want to live in. So kind of going off that, would you support banning women from higher education and repealing the 19th Amendment?
Repealing the 19th Amendment for sure. I don't think women should vote.
That's
But what's wrong with this nigga, bro? You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, what be wrong with it? Like, bro, hey. I feel like this election in and of itself proves that, like, any man who says women shouldn't be allowed to vote just cannot be taken seriously. Like, I just, like, this election has proven that, like, men are not inherently better decision makers when it comes to who should run the country. It's just the truth. Like, I'm like, bro, it's just the truth. There's so many more factors that go into decision making for a qualified leader. Are men more likely to be qualified leaders than women? Yes, but probably because men are actually more interested in being leaders than women on average. Men are a lot more ambitious on average, which means they're much more likely to be put in position to be leader. They're a lot more aggressive, much more willing to put themselves out there. Oftentimes willing to make significant sacrifices for their ambition. A lot of women, they'll go a certain distance, but then they'll start a family or whatever. A lot of men are like, fuck the family. Fuck all that. I'm going straight to the top. But I think this election has shown clearly and concisely that men are not better voters than women at all. And not only that, another thing is, like, the amount of red pill men who come from single mother households who support bullshit statements like this, it's like, why? A lot of y'all, you were taken care of by a single mother. All you've known is a mother. A lot of y'all dudes do not have a dad. Especially, I hate to say this, but a lot of the black red pill viewers, y'all's dads aren't in your life. Not saying they ran off on you, but you probably didn't live with them. You probably lived with your mom. Your mom probably was able to, if you had a good, upbringing, it's probably because your mom went to college. Probably because your mom got a good job after all that studying and hard work she put in. Not to say that dads ain't shit. I'm just saying, like, I feel like a lot of red pill guys get so caught up in these bitches won't love me. They don't think, like, okay, outside of, like, the women who won't have sex with you, what do you have you thought about what this means for your female relatives, your mothers, your aunts, your cousins, your sisters? Nothing? Just you just don't care? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, like, everything that's happened in the wake of Trump being elected is evidence enough that women are not inherently less reliable voters because they're women. Like, I just feel like all of this is just easily disproven by what we've seen. Myron, I don't know why he would, like, what, like, this, I don't think there's any legitimate, like, I don't even understand, dude. I don't even get it. At all. Hold on one second. Back. All right, let's keep watching.
That's all. That's fine.
And I know some people, that's probably a shocker for some people. Well, instead of laughing, let me explain why. There's actually a very logically sound reason why women shouldn't vote, and I'll go into it right now. So, here's the thing. If you're going to vote, you need to have skin in the game, right? Because, you know, if you're going to vote, you can effectively put in the commander-in-chief of the United States who can, you know, obviously send armed forces over to other countries and get involved in wars, right? Now, here's the problem. Women don't have to join the Selective Service. I mean, I'm sure a lot of women here probably don't even know what the Selective Service is. The Selective Service is basically once you turn 18 as a man in the United States, you have to enroll in it, and if you don't, you could get penalty of fine, you can get put in jail. It's a very serious offense. And then on top of that, you don't get certain opportunities. You don't get loans, you can't get a government job, a state job. It basically makes you almost damn near a convicted felon. So if you're not in the Selective Service, it messes you up as a man. But as a woman, it's you don't have to go into it. So I look at it like this. If women are going to go ahead and be able to vote, I think they need to have skin in the game. And I find it ridiculous that a woman could put someone into office that will send a man to war when she doesn't have skin in the game. So that's my thing when it comes to voting. And
I feel like that's a really one-dimensional and purposefully one-dimensional way of looking at it. Women have sons. So, like, even if they don't go to die, someone they know or care about is going to possibly end up dying. Furthermore, women do serve in the military, and in the event that we went to war, they still would probably get drafted. They just wouldn't be sent to an infantry unit. And I think we can all agree. I mean, me personally, I don't want a woman in an infantry unit. That'd be a bad idea. You put people where you need them, not necessarily where you would like to put them or where you wish you could put them. Nobody wants women holding rifles on the battlefield, like in an actual shootout. Sometimes it happens because that's just life. But like most Americans would agree, men should be the ones rucking up and down, shooting everywhere. That should be their job. But there are many other jobs in the military that women can do. The famous Marine, John Basilone, you know, the Italian Marine who died in the Battle of Iwo Jima. His wife was a Marine. His wife was a U.S. Marine. That's how they met, if I recall correctly. At least if you treat the Pacific as a historically accurate TV show. But yeah, I mean, like John Basilone was a Marine, and he met his wife, who was a Marine. Women have served in the U.S. Armed Forces, and they've accomplished great things. And the reality is, infantry soldiers don't fight on empty stomachs. They don't get their equipment without proper logistics, and logistics require documentation. Someone's got to push papers. Someone's got to document things. Somebody's got to do those spreadsheets. Somebody's got to be in the factories. Like, bro, women were integral to us winning World War II. I mean, like, just because women aren't going to be on the battlefield dying, which is never a guarantee, by the way, because even in World War II, when men were being drafted, if you were a German woman or an English woman, you probably got blown up. A lot of civilians got blown the fuck up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not absolved from the consequences of war because you're a woman. Furthermore, women still pay tax. Women are still expected to pay taxes. I don't think it's fair to tax someone without them having representation. That's one of the core principles of why, if not the core principle behind the Revolutionary War, was we are not going to pay you anything unless we have some kind of representation and some kind of ability to determine the laws that govern our land. That was a foundational aspect of this country's, revolution against the crown, and somehow or another we're advocating for that. For women, like, okay, you can be taxed and you don't deserve representation. I just don't understand that. It makes no sense to me. I think the idea that men inherently know better is false. I think the idea that because men are drafted, they should be the only ones to be able to vote is ridiculous. I think that if you are a contributing member to society, you're not committing felonies, you're not robbing people, you're not killing people, then you should be able to vote. It's just like there's so much more to be gained from half of the population being able to participate in society than half of the population not being able to. And none of this stuff is ever static, right? It usually becomes a slippery slope of Finally, they can't vote. Okay, now let's take away their right to marry who they want. Let's take away their right to do this. Let's take away their right to do that. And before you know it, you have a slave class. We all know where it don't just end at not being able to vote. It continues to overflow. Facts. You know, I don't think that women should not, like, this is like, you know, and what's funny is red pillars would say stuff like, oh, well, women's right to vote is only defended by men. So women can't even defend their right to vote. So should they have it? I mean, theoretically, a lot of groups of people can't defend a lot of things in this country. There's a lot of demographics of people that cannot defend themselves from a bigger, more dominant demographic. Do we get rid of the rights of the Asian community? They're like, what? Like, maybe like, what's their percentage of the population? Hold on. What percent of Americans are Asian? 7%. If we all teamed up, them niggas couldn't do shit. Does that all of a sudden mean that we curtail their rights because they can't? I mean, they might be able to. Okay, I'm about to say something crazy. I'm about to think of just bust out the dragon. But in the event that they can't unleash the dragon, bro, they gonna lose. Do we just all of a sudden take their rights away because they can't defeat the combined forces of the blacks, the whites, and the Latinos and whatever the fuck else? Probably not. So, like, I mean, like what, like, but that's the kind of argument red pillars make is, well, women can't defend their beliefs, so are their beliefs valid? And it's like, well, slaves couldn't defend their freedom, and yet they received it. Like, do we just curtail that because black Americans are only 13% of the population? Do we just get rid of that? Well, there's not enough of them to defend their freedom, so let's just take it away. I mean, like, that's, I don't know. No, it's not even, I don't know. I know. It's just like, I don't understand, like, this is crazy work. Like, what even is any, like, it's crazy, this conversation.
Let's be honest here. Most women don't really care about politics. They don't really care that much. If they do vote, they typically tend to vote left. They tend to vote single issue voters on whoever gives abortion. You know, whichever candidate lets them kill babies, they're more interested in that candidate. They don't necessarily care about foreign policy or the more higher IQ stuff.
This is so hard to watch because, like, all I've ever come to realize over the last year is that, like, most people don't know what the fuck is going on. Most people are not paying attention. Most people are not that into politics. Most people are single issue. Most people are fucking, like, bereft of any. Most people I mean, it sucks, but it's just most people. It's not unique to women. No high IQ man would ever say such a thing at all. You know, because if we actually start critiquing the human capital of voters, conservative voters are not as valuable to society in terms of human capital as liberal voters. Liberal voters are far more curious, far more inquisitive, far more empathetic, far more educated, far more likely to check their sources. Sometimes I get things wrong on this show, and sometimes chat's like, hey, Rashad, you got this wrong. That's incorrect. It's this or it's that. When you go to, like, conservative comment sections, they don't correct a motherfucking thing. They don't want to even know if they're wrong. They want to believe they're right all the time. So it's like, we can make the same argument for conservative people. Like, hey, if you're someone who votes conservative, you're probably less intelligent, less inquisitive, less curious, less educated, less empathetic. You should probably, like, stop voting now. You know, even I don't think that that's probably valuable in the long run. You know, it just feeds an ego. It feeds a sort of, like, supremacist ideology that will swallow the entire society whole. Pause.
That's the reality, you know. If you guys watch the Democratic National Convention, they just made it 100% femme-centric. They focused on social issues. They focused on abortion, a lot of smoke and mirrors, bring celebrities in, because they know that that's what their voting base is going to want, which, you know, they're going to want the black vote and the woman's vote. That's what Democrats typically campaign towards. So, yeah, I don't think women should have the right to vote, and that's why.
Wait, what about women in college? What about the second part?
Women in college? So here's the thing. Though I am against women working, and I think that they should work electively and not mandatorily. I think the man should be the provider. I also understand that we're kind of here now, right? So what I think is we need to just be honest with women and tell them, look, you could pursue an education and a career, But you need to understand that it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, for you to get both a family that you're satisfied with and a career. It's going to be very difficult to do both. We don't tell women that. That's the problem. And a lot of the times they don't wake up until they're in their 30s when all their opportunities have passed by them. Maybe they came across a good guy and they said, I'm just going to wait. That guy fades off. They can't find him. They can't reconnect with him because we tell women, hey, you have all the time in the world. So I think we need to be more honest with women and let them know that you have a finite amount of time to be able to cash in your chips and get the best guy that you can get and get in something more serious. So
What percentage of women do that though? Like I feel like most people like take relationships seriously and close the knot. Like I don't know too many people, like even men. Like I don't even know a lot of men who are like, man, fuck marriage. Like I'm staying on this career. Even some of the most ambitious guys I've ever met have a girlfriend, have a wife, have kids. Like most dudes aren't even on that like thing of like I'm never getting married, bro. I'm staying 10 toes down. Like most dudes aren't even like that. But I mean, yeah, I would say that to both genders. Like, don't waste time, bro. Like, you can be 40-something with a lot of money, but, it doesn't mean you're going to find love, bro. You might be able to, find a chick who likes your money, but, when you're young, you look good, you're in shape, you're curious, you like to explore. Like, that's where you're going to be at your most attractive. You might be able to, have kids when you're 50-something or 40-something, but don't play with time as best you can. You don't have time. Even when you think you do, you don't. Always move like you don't have time. That's something one of my homeboys from way back in the day told me when I first started YouTube years ago. He was like, bro, you may be like 19, 20 right now, but my G, you ain't got time like that, bro. You know what I'm saying? Move as though, you're 25. You know what I'm saying? Move like the time ain't there. And also, in a social sense, like don't burn up years. Like that's another thing I have to like keep in mind. Like don't spend too much time sitting behind the camera, sitting behind the computer, editing, uploading. Try to establish a working social life because, the time is going to pass you by. You don't want to be 30-something years old looking back on like your 20s and your early 30s and it was just a bunch of uploading videos all day, not necessarily fun. So, even I can take my own advice there,
So I think if we're a bit more honest, because let's be honest, women aren't going to go back in the kitchen now, right? They're not, right? As much as I'd love to send them back to the kitchen, they're not going back. The feminists have fought way too hard to gain all this ground to just give it back and, get back to touching spatulas and stuff. So the reality is, I think if we're more honest with women and told them, look, you got to pick one of the two and had that candid conversation, we'd be better off.
Hey, Myron, thanks for coming to South Carolina.
Hey,
great to see you. I have an observation that's probably occurred to you, but I was wondering about your take on it. For men who are antisocial or have personality disorders or have mental illness, they typically end up in jail or attached to the legal system somehow. For women in that situation, they get married, they get divorced, and they get a lot of money, and they get set for life. Mm-hmm. So I just want to make sure that young men are aware of that phenomenon.
No, I mean...
Yeah, men who are antisocial in the personality disorder sense, men are a little bit more violent, though. So, like, their antisocial personality might result in killing someone or assaulting someone or robbing someone or breaking into something. A woman who's on that spectrum is a lot less likely to be that way. Probably is not going to engage in violent crime. And divorce does not pay well either, by the way. Like, you're probably going to have a much more pampered life combining two incomes than destroying, like, your household, breaking off from your spouse, taking all the kids with you. Because most men don't even fight for custody. Most men kind of just let the wife take it and they'll just see the kids whenever. You're taking the kids with you, which is going to be a financial drain, just in the literal sense, not in terms of like, your love for your kids. You're not set for life divorcing people. It's not lucrative to divorce your husband. That's not W's in the chat. We rich. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, like, you're not a part of Rich Gang. You're not Young Thug. You're not Birdman. You're not Rich Homie Quan. It's not Red Gang. Like, you're not Rich. You're not Young Dolph. This is not Paper Route Empire. You are not rich. Okay? Like, this is not a financially lucrative path to go down. You're not gonna make a lot of money. This is not lucrative. This is not most men. Yeah, like most men that are getting married are not millionaires. They're average dudes making it work. You know what I mean? They're average guys making it work, bro. Like even the ones that make 6 figures, they don't have divorce. Ain't gonna do nothing good for either of them, bro. It's not, you know? You're not set for life from a divorce. There's no amount of money you're going to get from a divorce that sets you up for life unless you like get pregnant by like a rapper with a lot of money that has a significantly consistent career. Outside of that, outside of getting pregnant by dudes who have their shit together on a serious level beyond the average person, 1% of the population, ain't nothing, it's not going to do nothing for you, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like if you got pregnant by Elon Musk, maybe, you know what I'm saying? Maybe that's lucrative, you know what I'm saying? Maybe, but like if you getting pregnant by Joe Schmo, divorce is not an accomplishment. You down bad in the worst kind of way. You down bad, and bro, you get divorced, bro. You down bad, bro. You're such a horrible, bro. It can get okay. I'm not gonna say it can't get worse, but it's a bad situation. Like it's just nothing to gain from that. And sometimes divorce is a good thing, right? If you're in an abusive relationship, physical or psychologically or, you know, abusive relationship, divorce can be what saves you. Having an education can be what saves you. Being able to get a well-paying job can be the very thing that saves you. So, you know, these things are invaluable, bro. But that's crazy. You know, I think a lot of men are in this like la-la land of how relationships actually work. And I feel like red pill men really are men who just aren't talking to women, aren't interacting. There's no way you could believe any of this shit really for real unless you just don't talk to like women at all.
It's true. I mean, you know, if a girl's pretty, like she can literally, even if she's this is why you know, girls that are bimbos can still find a husband or still get married or still have a good life because, you know, unfortunately men don't really care about a woman's ability to create excess resources or her competency. Men don't care about that. So yeah, that makes sense. And then the guy gets with the girl and she's batshit crazy, like, well, who cares? She's hot. You know what I mean? So like that's how men operate, which is one of our faults. But
all right. Well, you know, like I said, I'm thankful for USC having you out, Myron. I've been listening to you just because, you know, first I've been listening to, you know, Nick Fuentes, and he's just had you on. You had him on. Yeah, he had you on his or you had him on Fresh and Fit, and just going off of that, I just kind of want to ask about what's your take on, you know, kind of the trad wife movement and how I personally think it's kind of astroturfed, where it's almost just like this, like they've sort of like fetishized it. Where it's like even the trad wives, if you want to put it that way, you know, many of them still have like an OnlyFans account. Many of them just like post way too much on social media. And, you know, as a young Catholic, it's just like even the girls that I interact with, it's like they're still infected. Even the trad wives are like still infected with like first and second wave feminism to the point where it's like, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to find a wife at all.
Nicholas Fuentes. That's what they be calling. I don't know if y'all know that his fans call him Nicholas, which is hilarious. I feel like funny people attract funny fan bases. Nicholas J. Fuentes. Bro, I feel like if you watch Nick, like I watched Nick for entertainment purposes, but I feel like if you watch Nick for real, like, bro, like, yo, even I know. But like it'd be really hard to like bro, there's no way you can watch Nick for real and have a healthy relationship with a woman if you're listening to everything he said. Like I feel like Nick has addressed this multiple times where he was like, hey, don't live life like me because I'm not normal. But it's just like, bro, when you're listening to Nick on how to think about women, you're never gonna get a good wife. Like there's a way to conduct yourself as a man, and Nick is not husband pause. Nick does not carry himself like husband material. And if you're gonna be like a groiper, you have to be able to like you have to have the intuition to realize that not everyone you watch is like a fucking like role model. Most people are not a role model. Yeah, man. I mean, like, complaining about first wave and second wave feminism for being the reason why you can't find a wife, that sounds like, hey, can you please stop having rights? Can you stop having rights, please? Like, that's not, I don't think that's gonna, like, do a lot for you. What this guy needs to do is grow out, you got the mullet, grow out the little white man mustache they be doing. The dudes, you walk around with the mullets and the mustache, grow out the you got the mullet, grow out the mustache, go to the gym, hit the weight, see if you can get the glasses off. Get some contacts. I would recommend to limit your Fuentes consumption if you can. You know, and you try to get rid of the hate. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like complaining about first and second wave feminism is crazy. Like, bro, like, you're not gonna get a slave wife. You're not gonna get like a chick to like, you know, this whole like fantasy of like, I want to come home to my wife with like an apple pie baked, lasagna baked, cookies baked, sweet tea poured up. She needs to have high heels on, a polka dot dress, an apron that says like kiss the cook or kiss the chef, hair done, lipstick on. Like these niggas be sounding like Drake and Fancy, like nail done, hair done, everything. But like in real life, bro, sometimes you gonna come home, bro, and she's gonna wear some socks, some sweatpants, a fucking sweater on. The hair might not be done at all. You know, the kid's gonna be running around, falling over, building Legos. Cartoon gonna be on. Bro, it's just life. Like, bro, niggas be crazy. Niggas be crazy. Bro, like, y'all be looking for movies. Like, bro, like, y'all gotta, like, bro, you know what I'm saying? Like, life ain't, life, sometimes life is a movie, but, like, it ain't gonna be a movie every day. And thank God, because if life was a movie every day, like a lot of us would be dead. Like half of chat would be dead. Half of y'all would have got blown up or something. Like half of y'all would have been died a long time ago. I just feel like there's a lot of unrealistic expectations from what like women are supposed to be like. And I feel like I've heard many of Nick's comments about women. And it's just like, bro, like if you play this for like, I find Nick incredibly entertaining. Like even with the racism, even with the sexism, even with the just demonic behavior, he's hilarious. You cannot, even in jest, you can't play the stuff he says in front of a normal woman and expect her to, really any woman, and expect her to get it. She's not gonna get it. She's not gonna find it funny unless she's like really racist. And that, bro, like you can't be absorbing that shit and like thinking that's appropriate. Like, you know, even me as someone who agrees with him on basically nothing but just finds him entertaining, I know full and well I couldn't like tell a chick like, look at this, like no, like obviously like she's not. It's just like it's crazy shit he's saying. He might be saying it in a funny way, but if you're a woman and you've never seen this person before and you're hearing this person talk about how women need to be burned at the stake, you're probably not gonna be sitting there like, yeah, I really think so, really nice. Like no, like you're probably gonna be sitting like this guy's crazy. Imagine you're dating a guy and you come home and he's watching Nick talking about how like women need to be like burned alive at the stake. Bro, you'd be sitting there like, what the where am I? What is happening? Where do I go? What do I do? How do I get out of here? Who do I call? Bro, you're gonna turn these chicks into Charleston White. They're gonna call 911 within seconds. I'm just saying, bro, like, you know, with a lot of these guys, like, their problems are like from all the way up to here, bro. I'm not perfect. Far from it. But I feel like with the red pill shit, you're so deep in the sauce, bro. You would have to be so deep in the sauce.
Yeah, no, and that precisely what you described is why a lot of guys go abroad. But yeah, no. To answer that, I agree with you, man. I mean, Matt Walsh, I talked about this as well. He called out Megyn Kelly, thankfully, because Megyn Kelly is, you know, what I would call, you use the term astroturf. There you go. There's an astroturf. Trad wife right there, right? She sits there and says, I'm a conservative, but in reality, she's just a feminist in hiding, right? And a lot of them are. And I think women have kind of caught on just with the explosion of popularity of like this type of content and like guys finally getting their balls and talking about problems in the dating space, where a lot of women have kind of like pivoted and realized, oh, this is a new grift. I can kind of come in here and be like a trad woman. But the reality is that a lot of these women are just feminists undercover. So I agree with you on that.
See, this is the reason why you never, ever, ever align with the oppressor. See, Megyn Kelly seems to think because she's a white woman, she's safe. You're not safe. Matt Walsh, all of these white men still expect you to become subservient, to submit, and to kiss the ring. After all the years of media and journalism and of reporting that you've done, these unaccomplished bums still want you to kiss the ring because you're a woman. I don't know how long it's going to take Megyn Kelly to realize it, but Megyn Kelly is not some radical feminist. She's just a woman who thinks, hey, like, you can kind of dislike the blacks and the other communities, but leave the white women alone. Let us have our rights. She's not a radical feminist. She just thinks that women, white women, should be treated equally and fairly. That's not crazy. If you take out the racism, that's not crazy. That's not psychotic. That's perfectly reasonable. But people like Matt Walsh and Myron and them, bro, these niggas want to go back to like the early 1700s in terms of racial and gender dynamics. I mean, and Myron seems to think he would like, here's something I want to hear Myron acknowledge. Like, you do understand the white people you're associating with, they want you to leave the United States. They want you to go. And I did a video about this that got like 100,000 something views, where the white guy was like, hey, Myron, like, it's cool that you like hate the Jews just like us and stuff, but like, you do realize once that problem is solved, you do know you need to leave, right? And Myron's like, oh, why are you fucking bringing this up when we're talking about the Jews? It's like, I don't know. I feel like you need to acknowledge this. I don't think it's fair for you to be in their space, breathing up their air, drinking up their juice, eating their food. And they're like, look, yo, like, it's been real, it's been real. It's been real hating on the Jews, but like, it's time for you to go, bro. It's time for you to go home. Like, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of unfair for Myron to expect the white nationalists to draw a line. And that's how all of these people feel, right? All the minorities, all the women who are on the right wing, they all want to draw a line of like, okay, so the blacks can be deported, but don't deport us. Hey, the Latinos can be deported and the blacks can go to jail, but like, don't touch us. It's like this, it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't. It never does. You know what I mean? It's crazy, I don't even know if I would say Vivek has learned it. Vivek is still delusional, bro. He thinks he can become buddy-buddy with white nationalists, and it's like, dude, like, obviously not. It's just not the case. And it's funny because, like, I remember the clip of him saying, what white supremacists? Where are these white supremacists? And then he was on the PBD podcast, and PBD was like, what percentage would you say, I can't do his accent, what percentage would you say of people in the right wing feel the way Ann Coulter feels? And Vivek was like, it's a lot more than I thought. And it's like, well, everybody was telling you that for the longest. Your name is Vivek Ramaswamy, bro. You were never going to be president. Like, bro, a dude named DeQuantavius Jenkins has a higher chance of being president than you. A nigga with felonies named DeQuantavious okay, he probably wouldn't be able to run, but actually, no, he could. What am I talking about? Trump. A nigga with felonies named Javante Monquay, whatever the think about the most hood ghetto name you could, he has a higher chance of becoming president than you because you're Indian. So it's like, you know what it is, my nigga. If a black bro, come on. Like, keep it 100, okay? Like, America only has a stomach for white and black male candidates. Let's just keep, like, we tried the white woman thing. It didn't work. We tried the white woman thing. We failed. We tried to mix it up. We tried to blend a smoothie. We said if we just take a little bit of Indian and take a little bit of black and you just shake it up, and still didn't work. So America only really has a stomach for black and white male candidates, as we've seen so far. Mostly white male, maybe black male if he's magical enough, like Barack. And that's it. Unless you're like a magical Negro, even then you're going to struggle. So Vivek, he's in delusion land. And I mean, he's still like, he's always like tweeting out like, stuff like citizenship is not just about race. It's about who you swear your allegiance to. It's like, bro, are we doing this again? Bro, they don't like you. You're brown. Give it up. You know, I'm like, bro, at some point, give up. This your 20th time pulling up on the 3. You can't make the shot. You know what I mean? Like, at a point, you gotta give in, bro. You know what I mean?
So, Myron, you said we should remove women's right to vote because they're not part of the draft.
Yeah.
So, if we hypothetically either abolish the draft or made women subject to it, would you change your stance?
No, because women are physically inferior to men and shouldn't be in war anyway.
Well, okay, but would you not agree that some women are physically superior to
one of the ladies
some
back
men?
there said period? See? When it benefits them, they agree. They don't want to go to war. Somebody said period. They agree with me. All right, go ahead.
But would you not argue that some women are physically superior to some men? Some women are physically strong and some men are physically weak?
Sure, but these are exceptions to the rule, right?
Well, so
The
why
average,
should they be excluded if they
like-
can meet the criteria?
Well, here's the thing. Now, this is what I'm a firm believer in. I think there needs to be one standard. If women could pass it, then sure. But I think in general, most women won't be able to pass it. And the other thing, too, is that keep in mind, guys, like when I say men are physically superior to women, I truly mean that. Like an average 15-year-old boy can beat up like 90% of 20-year-old women. Like that is how physically inferior women are. They literally are, everything about them is just inferior physically. Bone structure, muscle density, lung capacity, everything, right? High school boys like will play sports against like, collegiate and or professional women and smoke them. This isn't for me to be like, oh yeah, I hate women or whatever, but it's just the truth. It's the biological truth. So I don't think putting women in war is a good idea. And then the other thing too, and we could talk about this, the reality is when women are captured as prisoners of war, it's going to be a lot worse for them than for a man. And it's going to put a ridiculous amount of pressure on the United States to negotiate to get that prisoner of war out. This is precisely why the Israelis kill their citizens instead of negotiate, right, with the Hannibal Directive. So what ends up happening a lot of the times, if you get a female prisoner, the enemy knows that they could go ahead and negotiate for far more, and they have more leverage from a diplomatic sense, and creates a geopolitical nightmare for the country that is trying to get them back. This is exactly why Israel has the Hannibal Directive, where if Arab militia fighters are kidnapping people, they'd rather kill those people being kidnapped than allow them to get back into Gaza or to the West Bank or whatever, because it puts them in a very bad situation on their back foot geopolitically. So, I don't think, for the purposes of prisoner of war, also men have a natural instinct to protect women. This is why women couldn't join infantry for so long, because when they're in infantry, the men are going to compromise the unit or do stupid things to go ahead and compensate for that woman's lack of strength or capabilities or whatever it is. Now, I think in maybe some support roles, maybe women can be involved, right, if they pass the physical standards or whatever, but I would make it very hard where the women need to be in the top 1 or 2% to be able to get in the first place. And if they do, it'd probably be from a support role, because I'm not a firm believer in weakening our military, for social justice. And that's what we've effectively done, right? Women want to feel like they're equal and involved. And it's like, no, dude, this is war. We need the best.
Well, okay, so that answers part A.
I don't think that's even true. Like, when I joined the army, I was going infantry. Like, that's literally the MOS we went for. The most feminine thing was a gay guy named Martinez. One of our drill sergeants called him a bag of Skittles. I'm not going to say which one. He was like super feminine. Yes, drill sergeant. Like, I mean, I'm talking like, we were all like, wait a minute, is a woman here? Like, when we were like, who is that? It was a man. There's no evidence, bro, of women infiltrating the infantry. Like, bro, like there is literally like zero. Bro, there's no evidence of this. I don't think any women are interested. And honestly, I don't even think most women would get through basic training. You know how like psychologically draining basic training is? Like between getting shoved, sometimes punched, kicked by the drill sergeant. I've been dragged by my eye, like the bone above my eye by a drill sergeant. I mean, bro, between like the endless push-ups, like, I mean, we're talking like 40 minutes on end, getting woken up at like every other hour at night, bro, the bullshit is at all time. Like, bro, no woman's doing that. So like to even get through basic, you would have to be a woman. You had to basically be a crackhead. You know what I mean? Like, you'd have to be a crackhead. You'd have to be a crackhead. And then to like get into a unit, I mean, that's even worse. I mean, like I never got into a unit, but you know, to get to your unit would make it even more difficult. Like, Myron needs to, like, the reality is, like, Myron should just say, hey, look, I feel like women are inferior, therefore they just shouldn't vote. That's all he needs to say. Because it's unfair when it's like, hey, like, what if women were in the selective service? I still don't want them to vote. Then it's like, well, then, like, you just think that they're unqualified to, like, participate in society. Just say that part. That's all you ain't got to do too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing else to say. You know, it's just, you know, I don't really, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's just between the fist fights, blood everywhere all the time, you know, people farting everywhere, spitting everywhere. Basic training is nasty work, bro. I told y'all the story of the no, you weren't. No, y'all most of y'all have never seen that video. I released that video months before Why I Left the Right came out. Yeah, I mean, like, I started, I don't want to say I started a fist fight, but I challenged somebody to a fight when I had a broken leg, and it created a snowball effect of fist fights. I mean, people were breaking legs, people were walking around with bruised faces, people were missing teeth, people were betting money, honey buns. I mean, bro, I just, like, I don't see how any woman could put up with infantry basic training for longer than, like, 3 weeks. Like, even if you could put up with the physicality, everyone is so disgusting. Everyone's so nasty that there's no way you could last more than like 3 weeks as a woman. There's just no way, bro. No conceivable way, bro. There's no way, man. I just could not conceive of, like, there's just no way. Yeah.
The question, but part B, say we just abolish the draft altogether, right? We have a very strong, very large standing army. We haven't used a draft in decades. Would you then change your position? Also, follow-up question. You said a lot of women are not interested in the more high IQ parts of governing. Do you think that women are less intelligent than men?
No, we just have different interests. Women are just tend to be more interested in people. Men tend to be more interested in things. You know, from an IQ perspective, men and women are very, very close, right? It's not much different, but most geniuses are men, but also most retards are men. So, you know, we dominate both the good and bad side of the spectrum, but we tend to be in an average with women at the same level. But no, I think even if we abolish the draft, I wouldn't want women in the military, man. I just don't think it's a good idea. I think if they are in there, it's one standard and they'd be in support roles. I don't think they should be in active combat.
Sure, but I think the issue, and I don't want to take too much time. I know there's people waiting.
Sure.
I think the issue is you're supporting disenfranchising women of their right to have a say in government, which is going to make decisions upon what they can or cannot do based entirely on their eligibility for the draft. And I think that's more than a little bit extreme.
Well, that might be your opinion, but I don't think so. I think if you have skin in the game, then you should have a say. That's how it should go. So men and women aren't equal, right? So
what's up, brother?
What's up?
Love your stuff. Not here to debate, more just ask advice.
Sure.
Advice. So nowadays in dating, when it comes to boundaries, do you think it's better to find a girl that kind of fits your lifestyle and what you like to do? Or say you find a girl that's perfect in pretty much all areas, but she crosses like one of my boundaries that's like having guy friends or something like that. You think it's better to move to the next girl and find a girl that kind of brings peace to your life in all areas? Or some girls are great that just don't understand a lot of aspects about dating that are beneficial to both parties. So just like,
that's a great question. And that's actually a good one you just pointed. So when I said earlier, I was mentioning how like you need to kind of train your girlfriend to be the best girlfriend for your wife. A lot of that means like deprogramming bad habits. So one of them is like keeping guy friends around, want to go out with her single friends, wanting to still party. A lot of the times women want to be able to have a secure relationship with you while simultaneously still doing all the things they used to do while they were single. They like to, I call it the double dip. And your job as the man is to come in and be like, okay, well, that's done now. This double dipping thing, like I get it when you were single, but now that you're with me, we're going to have some standards and boundaries here. And there's nothing wrong with it, right? I want guys to really understand. Look at yourself like a prestigious law firm. If someone wants to go ahead and join your law firm, they need to have certain grades, certain recommendations, certain skill sets, certain things. I think as a guy, if you're a prize, a catch, you should make women earn that, right? Because they're only going to value the job if they had to fight to get it. And I think as a man, that's one of the most important decisions you can make. So if a girl isn't completely following your lead and not acquiescing to your life, well, then I would say she probably isn't the one, man, because you're the leader. You're the guy that's going to need her to be on your program, not the other way around. This is why I'm so against guys that like move across the country for a woman's job. I'm like, what the hell? Like, dude, that's now she controls the frame. And what ends up happening when she controls the frame is she's inevitably going to lose attraction for you. So I think guys really need to understand this, that like once she controls the frame and she's a leader in a relationship, and you might not even know it overtly. Like it could be something as simple as you moving across the country for her because her job went to Seattle. You want to, but your job is mobile and you move for her. Like that's gonna in itself is bad, right? You uprooted your whole life for a woman. So I think it's better to get a woman that's going to acquiesce to you. And if she does have traits like that, what you mentioned, like having guy friends or whatever, I think it's important to like express those boundaries up front. And if she says no, then you know where she stands. She's kick her to the streets.
All right, sweet. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, look. For me, I'm not really into the whole male friends thing. I don't believe that there's such a thing as a male friend. I mean, generally speaking, there are some male friends who, like, they're not flirting with you. They're not constantly texting you, how's your day going? What's up? Someone from around the way who you hear from, like, once or twice, that's one thing. But, like, I don't really believe in male friends. I just don't. That's just me personally. I don't believe in going to the club at 9, 10 p.m. dressed like you're single. I don't believe in that. That's pretty much it. I really don't think there's much, like, I don't necessarily know if you have to, like, train a woman or make her work for something. If someone wants to be in a relationship and defer to your leadership, they will. If they don't, then move on. There's no amount of training you can do. You can like say, hey, look, here's how I do this. Here's how I do that. Come, let me show you this. Come, let me show you this. It just works a lot better than like I need to train you. I need to train you. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's how you do something oftentimes is more likely to yield a better result than whether or not you did it. I feel like if you say, hey, let me show you how to make this. This is how I make this particular dish. This is what kind of food I'm used to making or whatever. What kind of food did you eat growing up? Let's try to figure out how to learn how to make these foods together. Let's try to figure out how to learn how to cook. If we're going to have a family, we need to be able to cook. Here's how I do this. Here's how I do that. Let me show you this. Let me show you that. That's a lot better than like, okay, bitch. Here's the itinerary. Like, that's like nobody's enjoying that, There's no way any man in his right mind would enjoy speaking like that to someone, and there's no way any woman in her right mind would enjoy being like told, like, all right, bitch, like from top to bottom, here's what you need to do today. If I come back and it's not done, you might get elbowed, you might get, what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, the elbows, the knees, the UFC combos, like that. I don't know if that's a good incentive. That's just my take. I don't know.
But no, that's a problem that a lot of guys deal with, bro. So trust me. Yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from.
It's wartime now. The females are coming up.
Yeah, that's a bad habit from feminism, right? Like, this is like, if we, like, 50, bro, it should get like, or as like, what
do you mean by working for it? You had to work for it by courting her in the beginning, correct?
Yes.
So what do you mean by working for it? What exactly did you do?
As far as like, what does the guy do?
Yeah.
Well, a man has to learn how to be attractive.
Hon, I hate to break it to you, but you don't need to learn how to be attractive. You just
Really?
are.
Okay.
And that's something you ain't. Okay, I want to bring up, talking
Let
about...
me address that first part real fast.
I knew this was gonna go left. I knew this was gonna go like, bro. It hasn't even been 5 minutes, bro. Oh my goodness. I think there's some semblance of truth, right? You either are or you aren't, but also like some people aren't, but have enough self-awareness to realize, oh shit, I'm not there. Like, I'm not attractive. Like, I'm not presentable. Like, some people are not attractive, but they have the self-awareness to realize it and they fix it up. And then some people are just born that way. They just are. It is what it is. But let's see where this goes.
Fast. So,
let me add on.
And then you can go ahead and, because I know you're probably going to an ad hominem attack, but that's fine. So let's address the first thing. You said you don't have to learn how to be attractive, you just are. So I've heard a couple of women say this actually, and it's always very interesting to me, right? I always say privilege is invisible to those that have it. And obviously for you, you don't understand the privilege you have. Men, unlike women, are not born with value. We have to learn how to be confident. We have to learn how to be attractive. We have to learn how to dress properly. We have to learn how to go to the gym. We have to learn how to be competent. We have to be able to have certain things in our background to make us attractive to women, because women look for things that take time to acquire, resources, etc. So for women, when you guys turn 18, the life is your oyster. You can literally go everywhere. You can do whatever you want. But men don't get these opportunities unless we make something of ourselves. So when women say things like, oh, you just are attractive, like, no, it's a learned skill. Men are not just born attractive. They have to figure this stuff out through a lot of turmoil, trial, and error, and sacrifice. So I always find it interesting when women say that, because we don't operate on the same dating timeline as you guys. You guys are born with your value. We must create our value.
How are we born with our value? Please explain.
How are women born with their value?
Yeah.
You
well, you say you had to learn all that shit, right?
You literally have a vagina and titties. You are born with value.
Born with value.
Yes.
For having cut off your dick and you're the same person I am.
Not really. I'd still be a guy.
Like, anyways, I want to talk about voting.
Okay. All right. What's it? You want to talk about what now?
You said we don't have skin in the game.
Yeah, they don't really.
So
no.
your skin in the game is the fact that you have to go to war, and
Yeah,
you're
so
unhappy with that.
I never said that.
Well, you're complaining about, having skin in the game and that we shouldn't have the right to vote because we don't have skin in the game, but we don't have skin in the game because men set that system up.
Yeah, because women are physically inferior, and that's the truth.
Physically inferior.
Inferior, yeah.
This is such a shit show. I mean, like, look, women do kind of have inherent value, but that's because men give them inherent value. Men choose to give women attention in exchange for nothing. Men choose to simp. Men choose to swoon. Men choose to do these things. It's not inherently a bad thing, but men choose to do these things and then simultaneously lose their mind when women then respond like, oh, you think I'm valuable? You like me? Well, okay, let me move in accordance with that. I mean, that's just the way it is. There are natural reasons for why. If men didn't live that long, for the majority of human history. You probably died in a war. You died hunting. You got infected. Things happened to you that probably, increased the odds of you dying an early death. So reproducing as quickly as possible was a really big priority for men. And it makes sense that men would be hyper fixated on trying to find a mate and paying a lot of attention to women and many other, natural causes for why things may be the way that they are. But as it pertains to women, not having skin in the game, I mean, again, I don't think that whether or not you're going to get blown up for the state all of a sudden means that you shouldn't be able to vote. I mean, rich people are much more likely to not be drafted. The more powerful and wealthy someone is, the less likely they are to actually find themselves sacrificing themselves for the country. Should rich people not be able to vote because they're statistically more likely to not serve when called upon? I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Where does this end? Where does this begin? Where do we decide whether or not somebody should or shouldn't be able to vote? I think that double standards are a reality in life and that some double standards are okay. I don't think women should be in infantry, but I do think women should be able to vote. The end. You don't have to just serve in infantry to die. You can be somebody working on a military base and you can get blown the fuck up. Women worked on Navy ships and they got blown up. They died. You know what I mean? Just because you weren't just because you weren't a Marine getting off of a ship and sailing to one of those Pacific islands to go fight it out with the psychotic Japanese Imperial Army, it didn't mean your ass wasn't gonna get blown up, nigga. Look at Pearl Harbor. I mean, bro, you, at any time, once you put on that uniform, anything can happen where you can end up catching a bullet. So, the idea that because somebody isn't being shot at, that they shouldn't be able to vote, is just ridiculous. This could apply to so many different groups, not just women. I mean, sure, rich people are a little bit smaller in terms of, size in the population, but I don't believe that that's inherently a reason why somebody shouldn't be able to vote. I think Myron's dancing around his main point. Hey, I think women are mentally and physically inferior in every conceivable way, therefore they shouldn't be able to vote. That should just be his simple answer. There's really not much else to this conversation.
So you're telling me that you could beat a woman's ass?
Yeah. Yeah, I could. I mean, I never would, but yeah. Like.
Okay,
Like.
I hate to break it to you.
Like, are you aware of the fact that, like, probably a 12-year-old boy can probably beat you up very easily?
Actually, I'm an educational psychology major, so they can't because they don't hit puberty until 14. And
Even if they did, okay. Let's assume without puberty, he would still probably beat you up still.
Actually,
Like-
he wouldn't because I have a brother.
Bro, what is this? Bro, what is this conversation? Yaha. You'll get beat up. I'll beat you up. My dad could beat you up. What the fuck is Hey, I'm about to like fast forward. I can't do with this cover. This shit is cringe and like, bro, this is just like, bro, what the fuck am I watching, bro? This is crazy.
And I'd beat his ass.
Anyway, again, I mean, I'm amazed that I have to explain this to a college student, but I mean, men are physically superior to women in almost
I'm
every
amazed
way.
that I gotta talk to
in
this
general.
grown ass man with dumb ass things. Like, let's be for real.
Okay, so your argument is the whole voting thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, women don't have skin in the game, so they shouldn't vote.
We don't have skin in
very
the game
simple.
because men didn't let us have skin in the game. You do realize that, right?
Well, here's the thing. Y'all could join the military now. You guys could do everything now.
Yeah, we can because we fought for that right.
Yeah, but you guys don't use it. I find it interesting
We
how
don't use it?
Y'all don't join though. Like, you know, it's
So
like
we
it's-
don't use our rights?
Y'all don't use it. It's not like you guys want to do a lot of these things. You guys fight for rights that you don't even use a lot of the times.
Like what?
So,
Like what?
oh, well, women want equality, right? All the time. Oh, we want to be able to do everything that men can do. But why is it that all the hard manual labor jobs are dominated by men? Why is it that men control all the infrastructure points, right? Why is it that men are the garbage collectors, men are the electricians, men are the power linesmen, men are the plumbers, men are the ones that literally keep society going so that you can enjoy the first world conveniences you do, right? So you can go ahead and have your bullshit psychology degree or whatever it is that you're studying. So the reality is that men make the world go round, and we civilize it to the point where you guys forgot that men really run shit, and we give you the opportunities that you have. So for you to sit there and be able to say something as ridiculous as, can you even beat me up, and you're questioning it, that goes to show how naive you are about the propensity of men to actually conduct violence. That's how civilized we are, which is obviously awesome because you're completely unaware of the savagery that men can, you know, put on a society.
Oh, I'm aware.
And
because
you're not,
look at
because
our
you wouldn't have said
country
something
today.
so ridiculous if you were.
I'm
Yeah, we skipping this. This is a little bit cringe. I ain't gonna lie. This one, like, Myron's actually winning this one. Like, he's not winning, but he's winning optically. Like, obviously, if you listen to if you take her out of the conversation and put someone more rational, he's losing this easily. But he's unfortunately winning the optics of this very easily. It's like, obviously Myron could beat her up. Obviously her brother could probably beat her up. I mean, like, this is such an unimportant, like, nah, yeah. It's like, bruh. Okay, let's see if she starts spitting facts. Let's see if this one's different or if it's just more of the same. No, we're not letting her cook. I didn't like what she cooked. It tasted disgusting, okay? Like, it wasn't appetizing. We're just gonna move on, okay? I'm sorry, folks. You know, she stood for something good. But I ain't gonna lie, the argument, it just, I'm sorry, bro. It wasn't there, bro. Myron somehow managed to win that one.
Hi, I'm a big fan of the podcast.
Hey, how are
I just
you?
had a couple questions that I'm just kind of curious about.
Yeah.
So you said a little bit earlier that like high value men are like celebrities and athletes and stuff. Like, what qualities makes them high value?
Well, I didn't say that, but you know, I've also give some prerequisites, right? Some rough prerequisites, because it's case by case, obviously. I would say income, your net worth, the people that you're associated with, your title, you know, the ability to have other things in place, being in good shape, being an intelligent individual, being competent. These are some things that, you know, are obviously very important to have.
Also, you also said that most women like set up divorces, but who is most domestically violent towards women?
Surprisingly, it's actually women.
It's not.
Yeah, no, actually, no. So check this out. The highest domestic violence actually occurs a lot of the times between same-sex individuals who are women. And then the other thing also that's interesting is, because they did a whole meta-analysis on this, what they found was when there's violence only going one way, where one partner is beating on the other, it's typically women to men. They're beating on the man. But when it's, but the majority obviously of like domestic violence is they beat on each other. So it's two-way. But when it's only one party attacking another, it's the woman to the man most of the time. So, I think that's a misconception that a lot of people have.
Hold on, let's look this up. Which gender more likely to is more prone to more likely to commit domestic violence in heterosexual relationships? Seems like the data proves him wrong. I don't think the data's on his side here. I think she's correct. The data's on, it says about 1 in 3 women are likely to experience domestic violence, while 1 in 10. Now, it could be that men are less likely to report it because they don't want to admit that their girl's putting like Valentina Shevchenko like combinations on them. But I mean, all we can really go off of is the data. So it's probably reasonable to assume that, men are putting out more UFC combos than women.
Where, people think that, men are just beating up on women or whatever. It happens, but I don't think it's as prevalent as people try to say. And, this is like feminist propaganda to push certain things out and get certain legislation going or whatever. But the reality is that it's really the women that tend to be more violent with that stuff because women don't have a proper concept of violence. I'll explain this, right? So, see, the thing with men, right, is when men deal with each other, there's already inherent respect to a degree because we understand that we're capable of killing each other, right? Because we have the physicality to do so. Women don't understand this that much, right? This is why, like earlier, I'll give you an example. When I was out doing the thing, the people that were heckling me the most were women, right? And the reason why they did that is because women don't understand the concept of violence and consequences, repercussions for talking shit, because women don't get punched in the face by men, luckily, right? But men do. So if you say the wrong thing to a guy, you know that there might be a physical confrontation that can end your life. Women don't understand this concept for a multitude of different reasons because, obviously we live in a civilized world. Men don't really attack women like that, which is good. Women, when they do fight with each other, they're weak, so who cares? So in general, women don't have a proper concept of violence. So this is why they tend to be more violent because they don't understand the consequences and ramifications of it.
But who commits more violent crimes?
Men do in general, for sure.
Yeah, and it's against women a lot of the time.
Well, it's actually mostly against us.
Oh, it is against other men
it's
because
against
men are
us.
like a majority.
Yeah.
It's men, yeah.
Yeah, but men also create the world that you live in. Like, there's going to be pluses and negatives, right? So I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, men commit violent crime. They do. But when they do, it's typically against other men. And, there's going to be really good with really bad, right? Everything was pretty much invented by men. I actually did a double check. Why women didn't invent Wi-Fi, man? I went ahead and looked that up, and I was like, what the hell? Like, they did not invent Wi-Fi. So, proves my point. Women don't invent shit. But, yeah.
Okay. I just think that's like kind of crazy to bring up during like domestic abuse like awareness month and like sexual violence awareness month.
The truth is the truth.
Okay. Okay.
Regardless of the month. I mean, if it was Black History Month, I'd make fun of black people too. I don't care.
Okay.
You know?
That's just crazy.
So. There's a black stereotype right there. Loud black woman in the back. Literally
up, bro?
fulfilling the stereotypes.
My goodness. Let's see if any other women popped up, because it's just his fans after this just recycling over and over again. Honestly, I was kind of hoping he would have a bigger audience that would come out, because it's Myron Gaines. Let's see. Uncensored America. Actually, I think I'm going to start revisiting this channel a lot more, because the debates here are actually pretty... Milo Yiannopoulos versus Martin Shkreli. Isn't Shkreli... Oh, he's out. He's free. What is this? Is like Uncensored America like UFC for nerds? If it is, that's pretty cool. But that's crazy that Martin Shkreli is free. I thought he's like locked up. It's crazy. Bro, I remember that Milo versus Destiny debate. That shit, I couldn't believe it. I was like, damn, Milo ain't been the same for a while, bro. I saw that shit and I was like, wow. Like, it really is, like, time has passed, bro. Time has passed. Let's see. All right, somebody brought up the GTA 6 trailer. Let's just watch that real quick for a second, see what's going on with GTA 6. They pushed it back for a whole year because apparently this year hasn't been bad enough with Trump. Quick little detour. We'll get back to politics and philosophy and intellectual stuff in like 5 minutes.
What you doing out there?
I was just fixing some leaks.
Seriously, dude, you got some time on your hands. I got some properties with paying tenants.
Well, that's why you came by?
Just go get me my checks.
See you, Brian. Love you, Jason. I'm here for Lucia Caminos. She's supposed to be getting out.
What's your name?
Jason Duvall.
I think you heard before.
Duvall?
You might have. Hey.
Hey. Trust me, this place is just the start for us.
Ring the bells!
The only thing that matters is who you know and what you got.
Gonna do this? We're doing it right.
Yo, D, this full effect? And they got your name, address, they got everything.
Us cops, we gotta protect each other.
You and me, Lou. We got this.
We got it.
Say my seat!
the fields, ammunition today. We got more guns than the law allows.
Hey.
That's enough before I get copyright struck for this crazy ass song. That's about enough for me. Look, folks, people. Frankly, I'm not looking forward to this game. It took a gazillion years for this game to come out, so I don't even care anymore. I'm gonna just keep it 1 trillion. I just don't care. Like I just don't. Like Rockstar, bro, at this point, I trust, of all the studios, I actually trust them. I trust them to actually delay the game, but I don't know, man. You know, I don't know. I trust them to delay the game, but I'm not interested anymore right now. I'm just gonna forget that this game even exists, that it's even in development, and I'm just gonna pretend like none of this ever happened. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pretend like none of this ever happened, and I'm just going to move on. Let's see. What else can we cover? The woke right. James Lindsay and Dr. Peterson. And then we have another debate with Erudite and Jim Bob. Let's see. Let's hit the Peterson stuff.
You have right, which they associate obviously with the right. And so now you've got a paradox. And so I've caused myself some trouble by calling a radical segment, not the whole right, a radical segment of the right, woke right, which I kind of started doing, I guess, last fall, September. I started using it before that, the term. I didn't invent the term. A lot of people accuse me of inventing the term or credit me with it. This term has been in rough circulation, floating around in the internet space for at least since middle of 22. So it's not a brand new term. I just adopted it and went kind of hard about it. And the simplest explanation I give people for, well, what do you mean by woke right? How does that make sense? And I say, well, it's woke people who call themselves conservatives. And some of them don't, though. They call themselves right wing. And they distinguish that conservatives and right wing are different. But it's woke people. So the whole suite of behaviors, beliefs, even the deep metaphysical constructs underneath those beliefs. And as you recently pointed out, I think the psychology that generates those beneath all of that, the cluster B personality disorders are presenting, and the psychopathologies, psychopathy itself sometimes, all of that kind of feeds upward into this concept of woke, which I think we, can talk pretty fruitfully about. But I don't believe it can only be presented through, left-wing causes. You can present it in terms of right-wing causes or religious causes or other causes, because it's the pathological expression of an ideology or of a belief structure that ultimately is woke. And so this term has confused people, it's angered people. I decided to try to put
Who is it angered?
Well, this is the thing. This is what I'll use this word, this is a heavy word for the beginning of a conversation, but this is what has dismayed me. I knew it would anger the people that it applies to, in my opinion, because who would want to be called woke right, first of all? And second of all, it limits their ability to interact because they have a label that's not a good label that sticks to them. But what I'm dismayed over is that almost I hate to use this word so glibly, but what I refer to sort of as a bookmark as elite MAGA, or the more who's who of the conservative movement seems entirely captured by this as well. And they also became upset, saw me as a turncoat and a traitor against the movement.
One of the things that I think, tell me what you think about this, but I don't think we should name any names in this podcast, if that's okay with you.
That's totally fine.
Okay, we can talk about why that is as we progress. Okay, good.
Probably because Ben Shapiro's one of them. I don't know, like, you know, probably someone that works in the Daily Wire.
Good. I mean, I wasn't going to make that a cut and dried rule, but I have my reasons. So you just referred to some comments I made on Fox News and also to some degree on Rogan, talking about, and I've actually written a fair passel on this. You know, there's been this idea that the extremes of political belief meet, hey?
Yeah.
And so let's hash that out a little bit. You seem to find useful or possibly accept this additional diagnostic distinction, which would be cluster B or dark tetrad.
That's right. I actually wrote about this, I don't know if you know, in 2020.
That specifically?
In December, yes, in 2020. I called the article something like Psychopathy and the Origins of Totalitarianism, and I published that at the end of December of 2020. I put forth the hypothesis, which of course I got from somewhere else in significant part. I had read that infamous, quirky, but I think important book, Political Ponerology.
Yes.
Was that Lobachevsky or something like this is that name, the author. And I had read that and found it striking. And at the same time, almost, I think sometimes, you know, a chapter here, a chapter there, I read I think one of the most important essays in English, which is Joseph Pieper's Abuse of Language, Abuse of Power. I don't know if you've heard of this. Joseph Pieper was a Catholic, and he wrote this, I don't know what else he did, honestly. I should probably look into it. But he wrote this essay, Abuse of Language, Abuse of Power, and talked about how tyrants arrange an abused version of the prevailing language to mislead people into the tyrannical program. And it's in 2 sections, 2 parts. It's been 5 years since I've read it, so forgive the details. But there's, in a sense, 2 chapters to this long essay. And one of the 2 is very Catholic in its orientation, and one of them is this more general thesis. And it was extremely interesting. But of course, in political ponerology, you also have the discussion of the importance of language, which of course we were seeing with the social justice woke movement as well, that they're misusing words like racism very blatantly. And so in political ponerology, you have this claim he makes that he says, well, with the psychopath, what he calls a pathocracy, what you have is you have people who are psychologically disordered, who create a vision of the world. They need other people to play in it. And the way that they do this is by creating, he calls it a second language. So it's the same language, but the words now refer to other things. Of course, having read the postmodernists like Derrida, I'm picturing all of
That's what happens in the Tower of Babel.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly
Remember,
right.
words lose their meaning and no one can understand.
That's right.
Nobody can understand each other.
So they reorient the discourses, and then what he says actually solves the terrain.
Is that actually what happened, or didn't God, like, literally create different languages and disperse everyone around the world, rather than making the same words have different meaning? I feel like Jordan Peterson just draws biblical connections where they don't exist. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Tyrannical problem. This is the Lobachevsky's, if I'm saying his name is right, his thesis. What solves it is that a third language evolves that unmasks the second language and allows people to see it for what it is and in fact laugh at it. And so this is what takes it apart. So I read these 2 essays, and I'm taken in by them. Of course, I'd been reading the postmodern literature quite a lot. I had been reading Lyotard, the postmodern condition, and he has this very confusing they're all very confusing sections throughout the whole book. This very confusing section about this thing called legitimation by parology, that he accuses all knowledge-seeking enterprises, including the sciences, of being legitimation by parology. And there's this story that goes along where he's teaching legitimation by parology to his students at some point. Somebody's teaching Lyotard to their students, a philosophy professor, and says, okay, so what do you think legitimation by parology means? And everybody comes up with crazy ideas because you can barely get it from the text. And finally, the professor says it means false legitimation through consensus. You get everybody to agree.
Okay.
And so I framed out this essay in terms of saying that what the pathocracy or the pathological ideological state, which becomes a vehicle for that pathology that serves the psychopaths at the center of it, the way that it operates is it generates a parology, a second false logic that defines the ideology, and a paramorality, a second false set of values and virtues that also defines the parameters, the social parameters, and the psychosocial parameters. How do I know if I'm a good person? How do I fit in with my society? And so I write this long essay. My poor assistant, I got in trouble for this. I had him publish it on Christmas. I was so excited about it. Christmas Day, we put this out. And, very long essay explaining that this is what I see as at the root, because I was trying to diagnose and explain to people what nobody was calling woke yet at the time, at the end of 2020, or maybe we had just begun to call woke. We were trying to diagnose and explain this social justice left phenomenon. And so I put out this essay and said, I think at the root, underneath the whole thing, there's the same psychopathologies that motivated people like Lenin and Stalin and all this. And I didn't have the psychological chops. I was aware of dark triad or tetrad terminology. I did know quite a bit about the cluster B personality disorders because I knew some people who were basically rabid feminists in the 2010s, and they were all talking about they had various schizoidal personality, and that one may be cluster A. I'm not totally sure. Yeah, and then they had the, borderline, antisocial, histrionic, narcissistic would come up again and again. And I think that actually is paranoid's cluster C, right? Yeah. My reading, for example, of Derek Bell, one of the founders of critical race theory, is that he had very likely suffered both paranoia and schizoidia, which are both mentioned by Lobachevsky as well as indicative. I can't say any about any of the cluster Bs. So I think it's a little broader than just that one cluster up here. Conspiracy theories or paranoid thinking, for example.
Yeah.
This is all interesting, the kind of trying to diagnose the woke left with mental illness, because it begs the question, what kind of mental illness does it take for right wingers to engage in conspiratorial thinking beyond the likes of which of the left? Because liberals, radical leftists tend to be a little bit Cocoa for Cocoa Puffs. But you don't, just because you don't have a nose ring and pink hair and dress weird and have weird looking makeup does not mean you're normal. It does not mean you're sane. Does not mean that your ideology is beneficial for society. Right wingers are drunk on paranoia, drunk on narcissism, drunk on the idea of my demographic, my tribe, my people should have all the power and this group should have no power, and we should be venerated and we should be respected and we are to be upheld. There's most certainly something to be said about mental illness on the right. It seems like liberal mental illness seems a little bit more exuberant in the sense that you can kind of tell when a radical feminist is crazy. You get the nose rings, the piercings, the crazy hair, the crazy makeup. It tends to show itself on the outside. But make no mistake, mental illness is not just something you can see on the outside. It's also it at its core, it's behavioral. It's behavior not just in the sense of what's seen on the outside in someone's physical appearance, but how they behave in general. And there's no denying that there is a pathology to conservatism that could very well be aligned with narcissism, significant paranoia, and conservatives are more prone to paranoia. They are more prone to being afraid of things to an even irrational, extremely irrational level. And you see it with bullshit like Pizzagate. And you see it with all sorts of ridiculous conspiracy theories. All of the crazy stuff Alex Jones was involved in that conservatives were supporting and defending until it got really ugly and really nasty and became a really bad look. So now, it's oh my God, look at the liberals, so crazy. But if we're being honest, conservatives themselves probably do suffer from a significant amount of mental illness. We all have psychological wounds in life. Some of them chronic, whether it's bipolar or, whatever, any of these literal mental illnesses, borderline, narcissistic. Life leaves its scars and its wounds, but I think it's hilarious that there's this sort of fantasy of look at how crazy the liberals are. Aren't we so normal? It's I don't know. I don't necessarily know if you're inherently normal. And that's one of the weaknesses of conservatism, is this idea that we're the normal, we're the standard. It's like, okay, like that'll be the very thing that'll have you fucking up.
Right.
And schizoids tend to have imaginary conversations with people who aren't there on a, childish, fictional level. They're pretending the world is the way that it should have been for their emotions when they were 9 years old. That's the split, the skits and the schizoidal. And so they write these elaborate stories about how the world's supposed to be, and then they have outbursts when the world doesn't match that. And Derek Bell was famous for writing these missives where he would present them as evidence of racism at Harvard, where he had an imaginary conversation with a dean and then would write the whole imaginary conversation down. And I'm thinking, this is so disordered, not just disordered thinking, but this is psychologically disordered, that you would then present this hypothetical conversation as evidence. But at any rate,
for
a long time, I've thought that's there.
Okay, so let's lay down some theses and tell me what you think of them. So the first is that about 4 to 5% of the population, maybe more, has dark tetrad cluster B traits to some significant degree. Okay, and so that was histrionic, narcissistic, antisocial, and psychopathic, right? That's the cluster B cluster. Whether those are psychopathologies, like illnesses, that's a matter of dispute. There are certainly forms of severe social misbehavior, manipulative social misbehavior.
Yes.
And people who fall into those categories will use cries of victimization to parasitize.
Yes.
Right? So they're parasitizing on empathy. That's one hallmark, right? They have disordered interpersonal relationships, often very intense. They're predatory, particularly the antisocial types. That's more straight, repetitive criminals. Very stable pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
So let's say 4 to 5%. It's probably increased because of the net. That would be my guess.
Okay, hold on a minute. This is supposed to be about the woke right. Where are they talking about the woke right? I don't mind the philosophical and mental stuff, but like, hold on a minute. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of why we're here.
And so I've caused myself some trouble by calling a radical segment, not the whole right, a radical segment of the right, woke right, which I kind of started doing, I guess, last fall, September. I started using it before that, the term. I didn't invent the term. A lot of people accuse me of inventing the term or credit me with it. This term has been in rough circulation, floating around in the internet space for at least since middle of 22. So it's not a brand new term. I just adopted it and went kind of hard about it. And the simplest explanation I give people for, well, what do you mean by woke right? How does that make sense? And I say, well, it's woke people who call themselves conservatives. And some of them don't, though. They call themselves right wing. And they distinguish that conservatives and right wing are different. But it's woke people. So the whole suite of behaviors, beliefs, even the deep metaphysical constructs underneath those beliefs. And as you recently pointed out, I think the psychology that generates those beneath all of that, the cluster B personality disorders are presenting, and the psychopathologies, psychopathy itself sometimes, all of that kind of feeds upward into this concept of woke, which I think we, can talk pretty fruitfully about. But I don't believe it can only be presented through, left-wing causes. You can present it in terms of right-wing causes or religious causes or other causes, because it's the pathological expression of an ideology or of a belief structure that ultimately is woke. And so this term has confused people. It's angered people. I decided to try to put...
Who is it angered?
Well, this is the thing. This is what I'll use this word.
They're talking about the Fuentes types. They're talking about, okay. That's who they're talking about. Do they ever actually talk about these people, or do they just like ramble and bamble about cluster A and cluster B and pathologies and all that other shit? I'm gonna give them one more chance to keep the ramble bamble at a minimum and talk about the real shit.
Totalitarian behavior. It's now this mode of totalitarian behavior that I can apply
It's
in other domains.
transferable.
Correct. And so with the hierarchy, well, not just the hierarchy, everything you just described, but you have these reservoirs of value in hierarchies built off of these games.
Yeah.
So there's value there. And the parasite is drawn to the reservoir of value.
Wherever it is.
And the idea is that you want to be high status, but they have natural limitations because they're not
competent.
They're not competent. Yeah, they're outside of the range of what brings you to the top of these
They tend to be
hierarchies.
very low in conscientiousness.
They
for
tend to be,
example.
that's right.
Right.
And
right.
so
And
what
in
would you do?
agreeableness.
What you would do is there's a word for what you would try to create. As the parasite who's now latched on, the thing you would try to, there's different, if you want to talk about it in politics, there's one word, and if you want to talk about it in religion or more generally, there's another. The general word or the religious word is cult. You'll create a cult where you've taken a variation on those rules to where there's a new status game that's rigged so you're always on top of it.
Yeah.
And what you're going to do is pervert the underlying rules. We call it an ideology or a cult doctrine. The word in politics would be splinter, a splinter movement within a broader movement. So MAGA is a political movement, and you could imagine a splinter off of it, where the Democratic Party had a political movement, and the Justice Democrats came along 10 years ago and made a splinter off of it that created the Squad. A lot of people know that history, at least, so it should be, germane. So the generation of a localized cult is sort of this hypothesis, and the ideology grows out of the desire for the people at the top of that, who are parasitizing the hierarchy, to create their kind of internal nested hierarchy, where they're on top of the whole thing. And the way they do that is by saying the big system is gamed. The big system is rigged. The big system is fake. And we have a secret truth about how things really work. And now you enter into the Gnostic kind of, I don't know, even metaphysical space. The ancient Gnostic religions, whether against Judaism or Christianity, all held out that Yahweh, the character, the creator God of Genesis, was in fact a demon who had tricked everything. He wasn't the actual highest unknowable God. He was this low-level, functionary God who said, I'm going to rule over all this stuff. I'm going to imprison them in this, wonderful garden. And then, whoops, they disobeyed me and almost realized the game by eating from the forbidden tree. So now we're going to throw them out into a real prison. And they've been, in the Heideggerian sense, they've been flung, their being has been flung into a world they didn't choose, in which they suffer. And you get the whole Gnostic architecture. But the way that Gnosticism attracts is by saying, and I can make this kind of literal to things that are happening in our world if we have to, is that the authorities in the existing game know so much, but they don't want you to know everything. They don't want you to know more because you might surpass them. They're trying to keep you down. But if you come with me in my cult, I'll tell you the real secrets.
That's an appeal to paranoia too.
Sure.
This is literally a description of right-wing politics. The deep state, the Democrats, the deep state, the powerful, the elites, the deep state. But if you come with us, we'll show you what's really going on behind the scenes. We know. We know what's really going on. We know what really takes place. And if you just come with us, we can upend the deep state. They're describing their very own ideology. And we'll see if they can actually acknowledge this. I sincerely doubt it. And, normally I don't mind talking about, I don't really mind watching this stuff in my private time because, if you're sitting here thinking they're just bambling, you're not crazy. They're not rambling, but yeah, they're using a lot of big words and a lot of complex, references to describe something that could be described in a much simpler form and fashion. But, I mean, this is the whole political philosophy realm, a lot of ramble-bamble. So if you've been sitting there thinking bro, what the fuck are they talking about? You're not crazy.
And that's going to be more effective under conditions of extreme uncertainty.
Sure.
Okay, so let's concretize this a little bit.
Sure.
I'd like to we can talk about Douglas and Joe.
Sure.
I think let's amend our rule. We're not going to point any fingers at woke right people.
Okay.
But I'd like to talk about the current situation.
Yeah, the situation and the ideas I think are important.
Well, Douglas's point with regard to Joe was that it's troublesome for those with a conservative bent to throw away the idea of institutional legitimacy.
Yeah.
And that's a fair comment, standalone comment. Joe's rebuttal to that, insofar as he had a rebuttal, because I thought the conversation was actually pretty civil given how difficult it was that the institutions have been so cataclysmically faulty in the last 10 years that the only possible antidote to their falseness is really unrestrained investigation. And Joe's been a master of unrestrained investigation, obviously, because he's allowed his interest to take him wherever it goes, which...
Yeah.
Except interviewing Volodymyr Zelensky, like, you know, passing up the opportunity to interview one of the most, like one of the most important historical figures of the century, as it so far, totally unrestrained curiosity, surely. You know, like, come on now. And then also to like insinuate that like institutions have been cataclysmically ineffective. There's no evidence of that. Like, they're about to become cataclysmically ineffective. I mean, we now have a woo-woo doctor in charge of, is now the Surgeon General, someone who believes in like mystical healing. Multiple bureaucracies and institutions have been gutted by Elon Musk. Literally everything that conservatives have thought was going on has not been going on, but they're about to cause to happen, ironically enough.
Which, allied with a certain amount of conscience, is a pretty good orienting function as far as I'm concerned. And I'm at a loss to some degree how to reconcile those viewpoints, because I think it is a cataclysm that the institutions have become unreliable. But let's walk through them a little bit. I think the universities are gone.
Me too.
I think that Harvard is having this war with Trump, and that Trump is 100% right.
Yep, me too.
The president of Harvard, in my understanding, said to the Trump administration that it was unfair to punish the researchers by withholding their research funds. But I look at that and I think those researchers have been filling out DEI statements for 10 years.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, they lost all their credibility. They're not independent researchers at all.
Oh, that's right.
And they could say and have said that they were just following the rules. It's like, that's not a very good excuse if you're a seeker after knowledge, right? If the rules have become pathological, you have an obligation to cease following them. Harvard took.
So we're going to start. Donald Trump has damaged cancer research in this country. Donald Trump's behavior has damaged incredibly invaluable research because universities wouldn't stop students from protesting Israel. Like, understand and realize Donald Trump is doing all of this to stop universities from engaging in the pursuit of knowledge, to stop kids from having a fucking opinion. That's why he's coming after universities. That's the reality of it. And the reality is that universities were inevitably going to lead toward liberal thinking. It was inevitable. When you allow people to experiment with their thoughts, to actually, you know, entertain what they're thinking inside, and not have some big bad papacy, some big bad Catholic church looking over their shoulder 24/7, understandably and inevitably things kind of led toward a much more liberal outlook of the world, right? It was kind of inevitable for conservatives to expect their backwards perception of reality to survive in a space of investigative thought, in a space of curiosity, in a space of free thought. It's just like, it's childish. It's like, some things just like you're not gonna survive there. You know, you're not gonna survive. You can't be a 60-something-year-old man trying to fight UFC. You can't fight UFC. You're like, bro, like this is not your environment, bro. Conservatives have to realize and understand that your environment is not the educational space. Not saying you shouldn't be there. Not saying you shouldn't be able to share your ideas there. That's what universities are for. But to like panic and decide I'm going to cut your funding because you won't you won't stop students from having a certain opinion. You won't stop students from feeling a certain way about a war. You won't stop students from feeling a particular way. So I'm going to cut any and all funding to you, federal funding, or I'm going to cut a certain amount in order to make you bend to my will. You know, none of this is about like DEI is not about disadvantaging white people. It's about making sure that people, including white women who are qualified, are not turned away because they don't fit a certain image. And all conservatives have done over the course of the last few months is actually prove the importance of DEI. Because if you allow conservative white America to make the choices themselves, they won't choose competent, qualified white men. They'll choose drunks. They'll choose corrupt fools. They'll choose ignorant buffoons. They'll choose mystical woo-woo doctors. They'll choose mayhem. They won't choose educated white people. They won't choose white people who are here to stand on business. They're not picking, but they're picking the worst white people imaginable. Once was a time America was racist and competent. Now we're just racist. Once was a time you knew the Secretary of Defense hated black people, but damn, at least he knew how to do his job. Now they hate black people and they can't do their job. Everybody loses. I'm joking, but like seriously though, once was a time our nation was racist but competent. Now like we're just racist though. And there's something to be said about the fact that conservatism is the embodiment of why DEI exists, where you pass up on perfectly good talent that might not necessarily be straight white male and Christian or particularly Catholic, simply because it's like, well, it's hard to imagine that you, a black man, could be, qualified for the job. I mean, your name's Devontae. Chances are you're a thug. So, no thanks. I'm going to hire Kyle here, who might not be as qualified, but he is white. That's kind of what we've seen from MAGA. And MAGA chooses to hire unqualified white people, by the way. They choose to hire, unqualified. This is a choice these niggas choose to make. Excuse my language, but they choose to hire, white people who do not know what the fuck they're doing. There's a reservoir of white people who are qualified. They just won't hire those white people because those white people are a lot less likely to do bullshit. A person who's actually here to do their job and is an expert is a lot less likely to join in on fuckery. If Donald Trump says, come here, I need you to do something horrible, that white person, who might be racist but is qualified, might sit there and say, Donald, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can join you in that. I can't get this done because you're asking me to compromise everything that I've worked for. I don't know if I can do that. So, of course, you swap out the qualified white person for someone who's completely unqualified but is white. That's the reality of it. Liberal Latino says, sorry guys, but most of the time the experts are boring, not well-spoken, antisocial nerds. That's what I've been trying to say this whole time. Thank you. Most people who are here to get the job done are not funny. They're not interesting. They're not into your little fucking deep state, the deep state conspiracy theories. They're not interested in being involved in the political theater. They're not interested in being all up in the videos. They're not interested, bro. They're just not, bro. That's how most functioning members of the state act. They behave themselves. They shut the fuck up. They do their job. Being a silent professional does not just apply to SEAL Team 6. It also applies to everybody. Show up, do your job, and carry on. If you're funny and entertaining and you're a president, that's fine. But also, respect the office, do your job, carry yourself accordingly, and know when to be, professional and when to, have your little moments. But what this movement of MAGA has done is only really solidified the arguments of people who are pro-DEI, which is people of color or even white women are oftentimes going to be passed up for individuals who aren't qualified but are straight white men. Now, most qualified people are going to be straight white men. However, there is a significant chance that people who belong to discriminated groups that are qualified are going to be passed up for someone who's not qualified because of the fact that they're, a person of color. So it's important to understand that a lot of the stuff that MAGA is afraid of happening or terrified of happening is they're the source. They're the ones causing it. They're 100% going to be the reason why. And yeah, I mean, like, you guys are right. Like, America is obsessed with entertainment. We want to be entertained. We want, like, a new WWE. You know, Stone Cold and The Rock wasn't enough. Now we need Trump and all this bullshit. Like, you know, politics isn't really meant to be entertaining. You know, if you want entertaining politics, go watch, like, Game of Thrones or The Borgias or some shit. Like, go watch a TV show. But, like, don't turn real life into a TV show, because it shouldn't be. It's not a game. It's not a joke. But, you know, people will come to understand this in due time, though.
Took its DEI head, I think it was Harvard, and kept the person and changed the name. Well, that's all the universities are going to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
Why wouldn't they?
And that's just fundamentally deceitful.
More deceitful even,
Yeah.
right? It's another form of mimicry. And I guess that's another thing we could point out about the psychopathic 5% is that they're masters of camouflage.
Yeah,
What a psychopath does is mimic competence, right?
That's right.
And usually they can't get away with it because not for long.
This is a crazy conversation. I can't, bro. In the wake of this is 6 days ago, chat. This was uploaded 6 days ago. In the wake of Pete Hegseth and all the bullshit, they're talking about how the psychopathic radical liberals, you know, psychopaths imitate competence. They imitate really everything. But, you know, psychopaths pretend to know what they're doing. But it never lasts long, because eventually the truth is revealed. What has been the last 3 months? What the fuck, like, bro, like, do y'all see, like, this is why conservatives are to be feared, and to be not feared in like the, like, you know, like they're Saiyans or Uchihas, but I mean feared in the sense of, like, bro, they're gonna destroy everything. It's like fear in the sense of, like, oh no, that kid's gonna run off a cliff. That kind of fear of, like, oh my god, like, stop it, please, somebody stop them. That kind of fear. All of this is just projection. All of this is just chaos. All of this is bullshit in its entirety.
Because they don't create, they destroy, and eventually that evidence accrues, and then they have to leave and find another host, so to speak.
Right.
Now online, that's a snap, right? Because you can just switch out.
Exactly.
You can just switch your identity, and
that's right.
And you've solved the problem, or you can multiply it beyond. And then there's a bot problem online too.
A tremendous bot problem.
Yeah. We've tracked some of that, and for some of these discussions about the woke right, 30% of the comments are bots.
Yeah, right.
So that means we're automating the psychopathy. Like, I've thought for a long time, and I do think this may be the case, that virtualization enables psychopathy. And if that's the case,
we're in trouble.
We're in trouble.
We're in big trouble.
Well, at least 50% of internet traffic is criminal, right? It's
Holy cow, yeah.
It's 30% pornography, which is close enough to criminal, so I think distinguishing them is not useful. And then, like, old people are just scammed nonstop.
Right. Nonstop.
Right. And so, and there's no policing, and there can't be, because you can hide so effectively.
Right.
So, and then what it seems to happen is that the unrestrained psychopathy spills over into the public domain, and everyone is mad, like, in both senses, angry and insane because of it. Let's return just for a moment to the hierarchy idea. So you pointed out one interesting mechanism of attaining status, which is to twist the rules slightly, create a new game, and dominate that as its originator.
Right.
So that's a transformation of a process that's actually creative and adaptive, right? Because if I wanted to make a variation of a business, I could do that. And then if I served my customers well and so forth, I could climb to the top of that new business niche and succeed. This is the parasitical equivalent to that.
Yeah.
Right? It's to what? To generate a version that does nothing but attract unwarranted attention. That would be the narcissistic spin. And to use any means whatsoever to attract that attention.
While directing blame to the parent structure. I think that's very important. So, for example, with Karl Marx, he phrased his vision of communism wasn't the crude communism that was experimented with by Gracchus Babeuf in the French Revolution. It was a transcendent communism. And I use that word because he doesn't call it transcendent communism. He calls it communism. But what he says, his exact wording for it is it's communism as the positive transcendence of private property as human self-estrangement, and thus a complete return of man to his true nature as a human or social being.
Right.
We'll be right back, but first, here's a sneak peek at the member.
Nah, I don't know about that one. We're gonna have to continue this video later because it seems to be just like the longest projection video I've ever seen. And literally everyone in the comments section is mad. Literally everyone in the comment section is just like literally going in on James Lindsay over Jewish people in Israel. So yeah, I mean, like, Jordan Peterson and James Lindsay need to get with the times. The right wing is no longer what it used to be. It is an anti-Israel and anti-Semitic movement. It really always has been. And there's no going back. I mean, y'all knew what y'all knew what it was when y'all showed up here. I don't even know why people are pretending otherwise. I can't believe this shit, bro. I can't believe. I don't know about that. I think you knew what it was. You knew what it was when you signed up. You just didn't think it would happen. But you knew it could. That's the reality of it. You knew it could happen. You just thought it wouldn't. All right. That'll be the live for today. It'll stay up. Don't be like, it'll be up. I'm uploading another video right after this live, so more content. If you like the live, be sure to like, be sure to comment, be sure to subscribe, share. Please share the content. People be like, Rashad, why aren't you like a trillionaire? Why haven't you blown up yet? Why aren't you a star? Well, if you want to help that speed, if you want to speed up the process, share the content. Send it to someone. You know what I'm saying? Send it to someone, to send it to someone, to send it to someone, to send it to someone. You feel what I'm saying? Send and share the content. And one day, your boy might make it. You feel what I'm saying? Thanks, JB, for the $5 super chat. Always appreciate super chats. Always appreciate the support. But, yup. Yeah, that'll be the stream for today. Content coming out a little bit later. And, peace out, folks. Just share. Just share, you know. Just share it, like it, comment, you know what I'm saying, run up the algorithm, show the algorithm that people fuck with the content, and we should be straight. So, see y'all.